More about what his agency has accomplished this year in its efforts to make America safer.
The total number of arrests year to date this year by the FBI of violent offenders is 28,000.
And that there have also been less killings so far in 2025.
The homicide rate in America is on track to be the lowest in the United States modern history by double digits.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
On Wall Street, stock futures are rising, coming off gains last week. The Dow rose more than 1%, a little over 2% for the NASDAQ. In the baseball playoffs, Toronto gets even.
To left field, forget about it. Gone. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s 6th home run of the postseason.
Helping power the Blue Jays to a 6-2 win over the Seattle Mariners on FS1, tying the American League Championship Series to force a Game 7 finale tonight. In the NASCAR playoffs,
Kyle Larson ran out of gas with the lead on the final lap in overtime and finished 26th.
Chase Briscoe's going to get his first win on a super speedway and lock his way into the championship four.
Courtesy NBC Sports, so it was Chase Briscoe taking advantage to take the checkered flag and join Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Denny Hamlin in the championship four.
That's Fox's Tim McMaster. On Sunday Night Football, San Francisco beat Atlanta 20-10. Earlier, the Kansas City Chiefs shut out Las Vegas 31-0. Denver was shut out for 3 quarters, and then the Broncos rallied back from down 19-0 to win their 4th straight game, beating the New York Giants on a last-second field goal, 33-32. Chicago and New England also won their 4th games in a row. The winless New York Jets lost again, falling to Carolina. I'm Dave Anthony, and this is Fox News.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
This is Seth Leibson for townhall.com. A recent piece in the New York Times takes note of the rise of Christian faith in Generation Z, but delivers some odd analysis along the way. The author claims these religiously awakened are questioning liberal democracy and see their faith tied to a politics of good versus evil, and that they lack the Sunbelt optimism that marked Ronald Reagan. This is all revisionist. First, the young churchgoers influenced by Charlie Kirk have engaged in a huge campaign to register voters. That's a belief and engagement in democracy, not a rejection of it. Second, Charlie Kirk lived and put his headquarters in the heart of the Sun Belt, Arizona. And on seeing the battle as a good versus evil struggle, it's hard to accept that anything worthy of calling itself a religion, be it Christianity or Judaism, would not see the challenges as good versus evil. By the way, didn't Sonny Ronald Reagan not famously speak of an evil empire? But at least the New York Times is paying attention. Something notable is happening.
Every time I turn around, my friends at Pure Talk give me one more reason to feel good about switching. This month, for instance, they're supporting Canines for Warriors, a terrific organization that trains rescue dogs and then pairs them up with combat veterans struggling with PTSD. The result? They're saving lives on both ends of the leash. This is why I switched to Pure Talk. I like being in business with an American wireless company who shares my values. Yeah, I appreciate unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, and I bet you will too. But I think you'll really appreciate doing business with a company who gives back to the men and women who volunteered to defend our country. Just dial pound 250, say micro. With Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team, you can switch in as little as 10 minutes. Again, dial pound 250, say micro, to switch to an American wireless company who actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
You need to be tuning into the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, the radio companion to the Amazon best-selling book, Success Blueprint, How to Build the Retirement You Deserve. Each week, Michael shares strategies designed to help reduce market risk through income-generating investments that can provide steady returns. Because if you can avoid a big loss, you don't need to take big risks. Catch the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, Saturday mornings at 10, right here on AM 560 The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Aid for Women, Breakthrough Ideas, and by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
It's October 20th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. Today's International Sloth Day, created in November of 2010 to teach people about these shy, quiet creatures. The first test flight in New York to Sydney by a commercial airline in 2019. A Qantas Boeing 787 Dreamliner takes 19 hours, 42 minutes, landing in Sydney. It's the longest ever commercial flight. On this day in 2015, then Vice President Joe Biden confirms he will not run for president the following year. Born on this day in 1964, Vice President Kamala Harris. She became the first female vice president of the United States, as well as the first black vice president and the first Asian American vice president when Joe Biden won the election in 2020. And singer Tom Petty, born in 1950. I'm CJ Papa. That's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
For decades, Dennis Prager shared his wisdom with listeners around the world through his lectures, courses, interviews, and debates. Now, for the first time, the collective wisdom of Dennis Prager is being made available as a podcast. Listen to Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager, with new episodes released for a limited time only as a podcast. Subscribe for free today at DennisPrager.com. That's Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager, exclusively at DennisPrager.com.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners, all-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
If you have an IRA or 401k, this is a message you really need to hear. In just the last 2 years, the price of 1 troy ounce of silver has more than doubled, up over 100%. and silver is now poised for major gains in the months ahead. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD to learn how to convert a portion of your retirement assets into physical silver and position yourself for the next wave of growth in precious metals. It's not too late to leverage the power of silver to help secure your financial future. With the devaluation of the U.S. dollar and volatility in the stock market, silver continues to be a safe haven asset that investors trust. When you call 800-741-GOLD, you'll get your free precious metals rollover guide, plus a copy of former IMF Chairman Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. The time is now to consider adding silver into the mix to protect your retirement. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-4653. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Did you know a will alone does not keep your family out of court when you die? The court still has to approve your will, but get a living trust, and your estate can be settled clearly without issue. Talk to the attorneys at Naumann & Associates. They prepare wills and trusts for a flat fee, no surprises, no hourly rate. With decades of experience, they know the law and offer a free consultation. Contact Naumann & Associates in Elk Grove Village, nalawgroup.com. Call 847-593-8777.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
Is your company's cybersecurity ready to handle today's cyber attacks? Some companies never recover due to the fallout. Listen to this. In 2021, a ransomware group called DarkSide gained access to Colonial Pipeline through a compromised password. The impact? $4.4 million paid in ransom. In 2017, Equifax had a massive breach which ended up costing over $700 million in settlements. Large companies from Target, Yahoo, to small businesses, including medical practices, have suffered major losses due to cyber attacks. Many have had to close their doors. Access One is here to protect your business 24/7. Cybersecurity isn't just about IT. It's about protecting your survival and customer trust. If you're concerned about your cybersecurity, get a free baseline cybersecurity assessment from AM560 sponsor Access One. Call 1-800-804-8333 or fill out the contact form at AccessOneInc.com. Access One has been protecting Chicago businesses for 3 decades. That's 1-800-804-8333 or AccessOneInc.com.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. During cold and flu season, a nearby cough or sneeze can trigger a familiar dread, that helpless feeling of being defenseless against an invisible viral threat. But what if you could change the narrative? What if you could fortify your body's natural defenses? This is why I developed Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail designed to give your body the upper hand. Virago is more than a supplement. It's a revolutionary liquid formula packed with 23 powerful natural nutraceuticals for rapid absorption. This unique blend is scientifically crafted to help build resilience and keep you protected. Don't just hope for good health. Make it happen with Virago. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Virago. Order your bottle today online at myvirago.com and use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com. Coupon code IMMUNE.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crestcom.
a construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Tonight, expect a bit of evening rain, then clearing up with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives, powered by Breakthrough Ideas, Sunday evening at 7 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So can we just get right into it with this Snow Kings business over the weekend? Can we just act like Walter Payton in the end zone like we've been here before? Because what was the difference between yesterday and, I don't know, 8 years ago when this all started? The composition of the crowd may have been a little bit different across the nation. Not much. The menu of grievances may have been a little bit different, but not much. The size of these protests, basically the same as going all the way back to when Ashley Judd and the Rothfuls were complaining about their bloody jeans.
I'm nasty, like my blood stains on my bed sheets. We don't actually choose if and when to have our periods. Believe me, if we could, some of us would. We don't like throwing away our favorite pairs of underpants. Tell me, why are pads and Tampax still taxed? Ooh, that was a brand name. Why are tampons and pads still taxed when Viagra and Rogaine are not? Is your erection really more than protecting the sacred, messy part of my womanhood?
Don't you remember the erection versus the sacred, messy part of Ashley Judd's womanhood debate that raged in 2017 in Trump's first term? I mean, it's the same thing, although less graphic, thank goodness. This is a fun way to start your Monday morning, isn't it? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, and text line. It's just the same thing. By the way, all of this, it's having an impact and the good guys are going to win. And this shows that there's a reestablishment of the revolution in response to Trump's counter-revolution of common sense. Just get a grip. I mean, they're not going to get a grip. They're hysterics. This is their calling card. This is how they behave. It's temper tantrums all the time over every issue. Ashley Judge jeans, ICE enforcing federal immigration law. Same response. Trump's approval rating, RCP average, is higher than Obama's was at this point in his second term. Well higher than George W. Bush's was at this point in his second term. Trump has a base. It's not going away. And there are a good number of Americans who may not personally like Trump or may have qualms about how he handles certain issues, mainly rhetorically, but they're on board for things like tax relief, peace in the Middle East, and peace through strength generally, securing the border, ending boys and girls sports. I mean, they're on board for those commonsensical, counter-revolutionary ideas to what we've experienced over the last 4 years. So, I mean, it was a, big show, and they're all excited about themselves. And there's great directionless enthusiasm that was on display in Grand Park and around the country and in some of the suburbs as well. But, I mean, to get all whipped up about this, to treat this as anything other than the neo-Marxists being the neo-Marxists and behaving the way they've behaved for the past 8 years as it pertains to this president, I mean, just is indicative of no institutional memory, which, of course, the Chicago Press Corps has none, and the D.C. Press Corps has none, or certainly pretends to have none, for the purposes of pretending what you saw this weekend was sui generis. This was something new and important, and it's going to be impactful, and it's going to have staying powers because people are really rallying around this idea of us having no kings. Right. Yeah. It's an odd king that we have. He lets people run around protesting him in the most graphic ways. He gets bottled up in the courts. He gets bottled up in Congress. It's an odd dictatorship that we have here. Very odd. Michael on the South Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. And as usual, you're on point. The temper tantrum has lasted for 8 years, far too long. But here in Chicago, the hypocrisy of the marchers is amazing. Here in Chicago, we just saw an alderman pass on his seat to his kid without the lefties here batting an eyelash. And we just saw Mike Madigan
right.
Go to prison, and he reigned here in Illinois for decades without the lefties complaining. But they're complaining about Donald Trump allegedly being a king. It's just unreal.
Oh, yeah. No, here it's especially delicious. It's a good point, Michael, because of how public offices are handed down or passed around like family heirlooms. No question. I mean, the idea of, a billionaire Jay Bally's out there at the No Kings rally. I mean, right. Mm-hmm. Right. J.B. Pritzker says no kings except when he needs them to split aces. Hi-yo. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Well, he needs it when he splits aces, I should say. So this was a little bit of a cross-section of the festivities.
Donald Trump, hands off.
From the city to the suburbs, massive crowds gathered in hopes of sending a message to the Trump administration. Grant Park was packed early this afternoon as thousands gathered there for a hands-off rally before protesters marched through the city streets.
I'm a lifelong registered Republican, but enough is enough.
Yeah, sure you are. Yeah. Yeah, I know that's not Jim Edgar because he's passed on, I'm sorry to say. But it's the Jim Edgar Republican. Oh, the hand-wringing. Enough is enough in what sense, sir? No, there's no follow-up. It's a coming together of the usual suspects. Coming together, ... of the usual suspects. That's what this whole weekend was.
There's an assault on democracy. We don't have kings. We, the people, have a power with our vote, and it should be equal and it should be heard. And when there's a domestic assault on our electorate and the power of the people, I think we should all collectively stand with one another.
Hey, could you tap down the chanting a little bit so Chicago idiot Patrick Schaefer can prattle on about how we don't have kings in this country? I mean, I really am tickled about it. And the idea that this is, as I said, something that is particularly momentous. By the way, as just a point of order, as Mike Milligan explained to us in Fargo, we do have kings.
Sovereignty is absolute power and authority.
Like a king?
Exactly. Which is who I am. Your king.
It's America, brother. We don't do kings.
Oh, we do. We do. We just call them something else.
Exactly. Fargo, the series, of course. Mike Milligan had to explain that to Ricky from Buffalo before, Ricky met an untimely demise. Spoiler alert. Anyway, we do have kings. We call them governor. We call them alderman. We call them senator. We call them mayor. Particularly in Chicago and Illinois, wouldn't you say? No kings. Crew. Comedy. Truly. George in Naperville.
Dan, you just don't see it. The protesting crowds are much more diverse now. There was even an opera singer in the crowd.
Like the opera singer, like Adam Sandler's character? Or
I don't know, but they kept telling us there was an opera singer out there.
Well, thanks for the call, George. Well, I mean, Andrea Bocelli was in the White House last week visiting Trump, so I guess, they're trying to keep pace. All right, we'll come back, and you'll hear from, that bootstrapping young man, Jelly Belly Pritzker, who's no kings, as well as BLM Brandon, who is donning the cloak of Eugene V. Debs and calling for a general strike. I mean, it's great, great comedy. Enjoy it, and we will at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 44 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A federal appeals court has blocked the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago following the president's plan to send them to quell anti-ICE protests, and the Supreme Court is now being asked to intervene. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the details.
Justice Department lawyers want the Supreme Court to weigh in for the first time. They suggest federal troops and federal buildings are at risk from violent mobs without support from the National Guard. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is responding, saying he'll keep defending the sovereignty of his state.
And the Food Safety and Inspection Service has recalled more than 90,000 breakfast burritos. Officials say the Los Cabos, El Masfino, and Mid-Mar breakfast burritos tested positive for listeria. For a complete list of the affected burritos, you can head to fsis.usda.gov/recalls. This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage, a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find the latest fall looks, all for under $30. With new arrivals every day, you never know what amazing deals you'll find. Don't wait. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Lutheran Life Communities, Virago, and by Senior Helpers of Naperville.
It's hard to find a nursing home where Christ-centered care is provided. For over 130 years, Lutheran Life has served the needs of seniors at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights. With chaplains on full-time duty, the Lutheran Home provides spiritual support as your loved ones confront the hard realities of aging. Our nurses will care for your bodies, and our chaplains will care for your souls. Find out how by visiting LutheranLifeCommunities.org today. That's LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Don't get stuck with a cold shower this fall. Give CenterGuard Plumbing a call. Get a new 40-gallon water heater installed for just $1,195 for standard installation, or a 50-gallon heater for $1,295 standard installation. A proud new sponsor of AM 560, CenterGuard is offering specials on new water heaters. Don't wait. The cold temperatures are coming, and the same can happen to your water heater. If you're having hot water issues or your water heater's over 8 years old, take advantage of this fall special today. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. They'll even haul away your old one no charge. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM 560 to receive fall special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Expect a bit of evening rain tonight, then clearing up and remaining breezy with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about the No Kings rallying of the usual suspects organized by the professional agitators. And, I really appreciate it. I mean, again, not only did I enjoy it, I appreciate it because I always appreciate people coming out and showing you who they are. And we got a lot of that. Boy, did we get some eyefuls and earfuls of that, didn't we? And you let them have them make their arguments. Since normally they rather engage in the skullduggery of backroom thuggery within the institutions they control, it's nice to have them out in the streets and at Grant Park in their own words. I think it's very helpful. It's very clarifying. I mean, they obviously think this was very impressive. They were very impressed with themselves. They think this is building momentum to something momentous. I don't think so. And so, again, I'm happy to have them do some of the lifting for the decent and the freedom-oriented among us. I know there were Chants of USA, and they love their country, and by that they mean big government. And that's all well and good. I mean, they have a different vision for America. It's much closer to modern-day France, and maybe even modern-day France, like Reign of Terror era. But nonetheless, as I've said, since they're afraid to debate, generally speaking, certainly with any routine, and they're usually buttoned down when they do, to sort of pretend they are not who they are. You see this going on in New York City right now with Zohran Mamdani. It's nice when the madness of crowds takes over and they can take off their masks and show you who they really are. And we got a full helping of that in Chicago. J.B. Pritzker going full Corey Hart.
We are here today to defend a principle that has defined America since its founding. The belief that tyranny in any form must be resisted by the people of conscience. Especially here in Chicago, we will never surrender.
Yay. Not going to surrender in the face of this existential threat. You've heard it all before, but it's nice to get the indication from your governor that, if you're listening in Illinois, that nothing is going to change rhetorically. There's no throttling back from the race hustle that he's playing, from the demonization of law enforcement that he is doing. Not an iota.
Today, we're here to say with one voice that there is an existential threat to our constitutional republic. This is not a political choice. This is a moral imperative. Black and brown people are being rounded up because of the color of their skin. Children are being zip-tied and separated from their parents. Worshippers coming from church are being questioned and detained. Workers are being harassed and detained at our shops and restaurants. These are not abstractions. These are people who pay taxes, own businesses, teach our children, care for our elderly, and contribute to the fabric of our society. This is us, all of us.
This is them, all of them. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. And a text line, for that matter. Since this is them, and he did bring up teachers, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this teacher that's been identified as an employee of CPS at Nathan Hale Elementary School. Oh, did you see her? She was the one that was triggered, I guess, by a car along the rally route somewhere that I think had like a pro-Trump, pro-Charlie Kirk banner on it. And her reaction, which was captured and distributed on social media, and then ultimately she was identified, her reaction was to mock how Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck. She was like, she's this big, disgusting, morbidly obese apparatchik who teaches your kids at Nathan Hale Elementary, congratulations, who's like taking her right hand to her neck and just, thrusting it from her neck, her right hand out, showing how Charlie Kirk's neck was blown out by a bullet. And she was celebrating that and mocking those individuals who had a pro-Charlie Kirk, pro-Trump sign in that way because she's an adult. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course she is. And then there were people present, like, speaking of teachers again, this guy, I don't know his name, at least there's not confirmation on it, and it's being reported, I can't confirm this, but it's being reported that he works at Wright College. And, very much like the CPS teacher, you get this kind of rhetoric, and very much in keeping with what you were getting from J.B. Pritzker. It's not surprising he would spawn something like this.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out.
That's pretty clear. Calling for get a gun, call for ICE agents to be shot. Peaceful protests. Peaceful protests. I mean, but again, it's not inconsistent with anything. It's consistent, I should say, with what we've heard before. All this was over the weekend was just a supercut of everything we've been hearing from various people with platforms and some notoriety. So you heard that from some nondescript stooge at Wright College. You heard this from Don Lemon on his podcast last week.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for? Go back and read what the Second Amendment says. And perhaps it will knock some sense in the heads of these people who are saying, well, it's all great. I don't believe they're doing it without due process. They're asking people for papers. They're not really beating people up. These people are doing things that are illegal. Nobody is illegal. It is a misdemeanor to cross the border. Now,
right. And of course, Don Lemon's position is that misdemeanors aren't crimes, just so you understand his understanding of the law. Yeah. So, again, that a deep understanding of civics, of statutory law, that was on display this weekend, too. If I could just go off on a quick tangent, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't give BLM Brandon his time at the lectern. He had practiced for this moment. He was so excited to be there. I mean, this is the kind of stuff he came up doing when he was a member of the communist incubator of the Chicago Teachers Union. And so this is, again, he didn't have to be button down Brandon the mayor. He could be Brandon the organizer.
If my ancestors as slaves can lead the greatest general strike in the history of this country, taking it to the ultra-rich and big corporations, we can do the same today. I'm calling on black people, white people, brown people, Asian people, immigrants, gay people from around this country to stand up against tyranny and to send a clear message to the ultra-rich and big corporations. We are going to make them pay their fair share in taxes to fund our schools, to fund jobs, to fund healthcare, to fund transportation. Democracy will live on because of this generation. Are you ready to take it to the courts and to the streets?
Yeah. And my grocery store. You forgot that one. And the Gimme Debt Housing Project on LaSalle Street. Come on, get it all in there. Yeah, calling for a general strike. Boy, a little Taft-Hartley throwback from BLM Brandon. That's fun. I'll tell you what, there is no bigger indication that you should be generally unconcerned about all of those people in attendance than the fact that that is the one place Brandon Johnson is warmly received. So what percentage of the population do they really represent? Cheering Brandon Johnson, that's not something that is easy to find. Scott in Frankfurt, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to thank you. Every morning when I wake up and I turn on your show, you're constantly talking about the things that infuriated me the day before, which I want to thank you for that. This beast at Nathan Hale, Miss Martinez.
Yeah.
They quickly deactivated their website at Nathan Hale because they must have been inundated as soon as she was identified. But you can still contact. The only thing that's still up is the principal's office. His website, his email is still available. And I think on Turning Point USA, on one of their groups, they had all the information. If anybody reaches out, I would be appalled if I was a parent and that was the person mentoring my children, especially from K through, I don't know if it's K through 4 at school, but it's your young kids. I couldn't imagine her views on everything.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Scott. Appreciate it. You know, if I was an undergrad at Wright College or a parent paying the freight, I may want to, if that is indeed the reporting is accurate, I may want the leadership at Wright College to identify the guy. I'm sure law enforcement would be interested in that too. Maybe they already are. Would be interested in identifying this Wright College employee, allegedly, who was calling for people to get guns and shoot ICE officers. That's very specific. That's a problem. So, yeah, again, not trying to foment it, but the left was showing you who they are all over the country on Saturday. I hope people were paying attention. Matt, Mount Greenwood.
Good morning, Dan. When I was young, I couldn't comprehend how the Nazis got away with what they got away with, and they were supported by the masses. But I hear this, and it makes sense. These are soulless, ignorant, and frankly, stupid as well people who have nothing in their lives other than their government. And it's sad. It's sad to see that humans could allow themselves, with all the gifts we have, to be so inclined to follow this nonsense. Have a good day, Dan.
Thanks for the call, Matt. Pritzker, just back to Pritzker, close it out. I mean, I want to give this No Kings champion, billionaire member of the Lucky Sperm Club, this No Kings champion, J.B. Pritzker, his due. He put the question to you, Chicago.
When we accept the idea that the color of your skin is probable cause to detain you, that the government should have unlimited power to round up and imprison people without due process, that Trump can build a massive enforcement apparatus with no constitutional limits, well, then we erode the foundations that protect all of us. Chicago, is that okay with you?
Resounding. And his message to Trump, yeah. Come and get me. Pritzker, his message to Trump.
But tyranny also fails when ordinary people refuse to cooperate, when they say no kings and they mean it.
Ooh, chilling.
So Donald Trump, stay the hell out of Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. They say no kings and they mean it. And again, he does, except when he needs a king to paint an ace. Greg in Jefferson Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. There was a nice collection of raffles in downtown Park Ridge.
I'm sorry I missed that.
A bunch of millionaire, honky, middle-aged women who go home and beat their husbands up. We're out there whining and moaning about all the bad things Trump's doing.
Go home and beat their husband. I bet there wasn't a pair of shaved legs in that crowd.
Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Actually, I'm mistaken. We do have some audio from the Park Ridge No Kings rally. Here it is.
What do we want? We don't know. When do we want it? Also unclear. Why do we want it? Because it was forwarded to us in an email, so it must be true. Yeah!
Yeah, that was powerful stuff there, Park Ridge. Tim in Woodstock.
Hi, good morning, Dan. In regard to Don Lemon, excuse me, he's talking about it being a misdemeanor, but actually the people that they're dealing with and rounding up often have multiple offenses of crossing the border, and those are felonies after the first offense.
I don't think Don Lemon recognizes those as incidents of law breaking. I think he's just, the things that he doesn't want to enforce, he's just going to call them misdemeanors and pretend that misdemeanors are not illegalities. I think that's his approach. But
Right.
I hear you. Yeah.
And it's kind of amusing to hear leftists like Don calling for the use of guns. I thought the guns were the problem.
Yes.
But now that it's their political cause and issue, I guess it's okay to defend themselves with a gun against it.
Oh, no, you're right. And thank you for catching that. I should have mentioned. But yes, I mean, the irony of ironies, Don Lemon talking about the Second Amendment as a individual protection against tyranny. Well. Don Lemon channeling Charlton Heston. Where did that guy come from? How about that? Look at his fresh reading of the Second Amendment. That's fun. I said they're a fun crew. It's fun because they don't know anything. So they're just, they just sort of ricochet about based on their momentary interests and fleeting feelings about said interests. They're like kids. I mean, this whole No Kings thing should have been held in one big bouncy house. Maurice and Berwyn.
Yeah, but Dan, I mean, I just heard Stephen Miller call the Democratic Party, it wasn't a Democrat, he didn't refer to it as a political party, but a grouping of domestic terrorists. I'm paraphrasing. But, I mean, once again, that's a bit of hyperbole, and everyone needs to kind of own when they're saying things. So I'm like, wow, does that make me a terrorist by default?
Wait a second. Are you still? You're not still with the Democrat? Come on, Mo. You can't still be with the Democrat. Come on.
If someone looked and said, what's my party affiliation? They actually, they read it. It would say Democratic. But once again, when you use that kind of language, and hey, and this is something I said. As we learned from our friend Machiavelli, you want to be feared, you want to be loved, right? And right now, it seems like you guys are kind of pick one over the other.
Do I want to be? Wait. I pick one over the other. Which one? What's the choice again?
Well, I mean, yes, Dan, you went to a good school, buddy. You read Machiavelli. You went to a good school. The Prince by Machiavelli. Either you want to be feared,
but Machiavelli. Yeah, okay, I didn't catch it. Okay, yeah. Sure, yeah. No,
as a rule.
Yeah, okay.
You have a choice when you're ruling people. And he recommended that as a ruler, you want to be loved. You don't want to be feared. And so right now, I think maybe you guys have chosen, maybe fear.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I think. Thanks for the callers. I mean, I'm not sure. That love or fear thing's a little bit of a false choice too. It's sort of a ham-handed way to describe what Machiavelli was talking about, frankly. But this isn't about love or fear. Stop. That places too much emphasis on the politician. Temporary representative. There to do what he or she said they were going to do, consistent with advancing the interests of their constituents. It's not complicated. So you know what? I just like I would respect the effort somebody put forward in public office. That's plenty. I don't need to. I'm not afraid of them, and I certainly don't fall in love with them. As I've said many times, don't fall in love with a politician. Any of them, they'll just break your hearts. Temporary representatives. Shrink them in your mind in terms of importance in your lives. They will be gone. Some of them last a lot longer than they should, but generally speaking, there is big turnover. Most of them are inconsequential. Keep them in proper proportion to you as the agent in your own life. Bill, LaSalle County.
Hey, thanks for taking a call. You forgot when Pritzker was mentioning people, you forgot to mention police officers, that they're also police officers. And the whole point is Don Lemon, BLM Brandon, and Pritzker talk about due process. Well, due process doesn't mean that you can't be arrested. It just means you get your day in court to contest the charges that are brought against you and to contest the fact of whether you were legally arrested.
No, of course. Thanks for the call, Bill. But Pritzker's time is always just spent with straw man arguments and urban myths that he perpetuates. Children that are zip tied. CWB Chicago is still trying to give away $500 to anybody who has any pictures or evidence to support the claim that was made, continues to be made, was made yesterday or over the weekend by Pritzker, that children were zip-tied during the raid at that South Shore apartment complex. It's $500, still waiting for somebody to claim from CWB Chicago if they can prove the truth of that statement. It's not true. I mean, all this stuff is like disappearing people. Again, describing ICE or CBP, federal law enforcement, the way that we would describe like Pinochet death squads. It's absurd. But the fact that it's not true and that it's absurd and that it denigrates law enforcement and that it increases the risk of political violence, that doesn't seem to be of much concern to our No Kings friends, does it? It doesn't seem to me it is. I got to get to this one, too. This was great. George Conway is back, that putty-faced ex-husband of Kellyanne Conway. Boy, talk about a guy. He was wearing a I Am Antifa T-shirt. Okay, man. I mean, it's not just Trump derangement syndrome. It's almost like people like self-lobotomize in response to their dislike of Trump. And George Conway is a case study. He was on the set of MSNBC with like an emotional support dog. I'm not kidding. He's doing this interview with, fungible dingbats on that news desk. They're irrelevant. He's petting this dog that has a vest. The set of MSNBC with an emotional support dog, and we're supposed to take George Conway seriously? He's a big rough and tumble D.C. lawyer? I mean, how did Kellyanne Conway stay with this guy for so long? Good Lord.
All the different things that the Trump administration has done, and it's accelerating now. There is no question now. When people were kind of frowning about the use of the word authoritarian and fascist to describe Trump at the beginning of the year, but we've seen nothing but that ever since. Right. The prosecution of political enemies, soldiers on the streets, everything that you read about in, the attempt to divide, demonize the enemy, calling them, terrorists, calling people who are just marching in the streets, terrorist supporters and Antifa and Hamas and all that stuff. And it is really, really insane.
I mean, again, not seeing him stroking the dog's ears while he's giving this impassioned plea to stand up to Trump's alleged authoritarianism, doesn't quite capture it. So I've tried to paint the picture for you. As I said, wonderful display by the left of who they are over the weekend. And again, I am very appreciative. Coming up at 6:06. I wonder what Chicago denizens who buy the rap that endemic violence is just a manufactured crisis would have to say to a young woman victimized in an assault who told her story online. We'll have that story. Get your reaction. 6:06. It is now 6 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
A flare-up in fighting in Gaza appears to be over. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and President Trump says the ceasefire is holding.
We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. And as you know, they've been quite rambunctious.
Israel says Hamas started killing 2 of its soldiers, while Palestinian officials say the retaliation left at least 36 Palestinians dead.
The Israeli military says it's reinforcing the ceasefire after hitting dozens of Hamas targets on Sunday. Israel says the strikes were in retaliation after Hamas fired as many as 20 missiles towards Israeli defense forces in 3 incidents. The attacks were the most serious escalation since the ceasefire that the U.S. brokered took effect.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The president also told reporters he's readying major tariffs on Colombia for not helping in the war against illegal drugs. And the president reacted to this.
No kings! No kings!
The No Kings anti-Trump rallies across America Saturday that organizers say drew 7 million protesters.
I think it's a joke.
President Trump on Air Force One says he saw the people at those rallies.
The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
There were similar protests in June. The president says they're being funded by radical left groups and that's under investigation.
Fox's Chris Foster. The Louvre Museum closed again today in Paris after quite the weekend robbery.
The search goes on for thieves who broke into France's most prestigious museum and made off with priceless treasures. In just 7 minutes, the gang used an elevating platform and a disc cutter to enter a room on the second floor of the building, stealing 8 items of jewellery from the 18th century or earlier.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Some of you woke up and had a tough time accessing some things online because of an Amazon Workspaces outage affecting a lot of sites, but Amazon's now saying it's making progress with significant signs of recovery. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 43 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Thousands of people took part in Saturday's No Kings rally in Chicago, protesting the Trump administration. Fox's Madeline Rivera has more from Washington, D.C.
The premise of their movement revolves around the argument that the president is abusing his power. They point to immigration detentions and the deployment of National Guard troops. But House Speaker Mike Johnson says their message is flawed. Johnson says the protests were merely a cover for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He's accusing Schumer of caving to the far-left flank in the government funding fight. Johnson told Fox Business he hopes Democrats will be willing to accept the GOP short-term funding bill now that the rallies are over. Until then, he's refusing to call the House back into session. But Democrats are not budging on health care concessions. They're rejecting Senate Majority Leader John Thune's offer for a vote on Obamacare subsidies after the government reopens.
Now, in addition to Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, and Boston all had large gatherings. Police said those protests were largely peaceful. 11 people were arrested by federal ICE agents during an operation at parking lots near O'Hare International Airport over the weekend. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino posted on X that the agency had, quote, arrested dozens of illegal alien rideshare operators taking jobs from American citizens out there last week. More to come. And the Food Safety and Inspection Service has recalled more than 90,000 breakfast burritos. Officials say the Los Cabos, El Masfino, and Midmar breakfast burritos tested positive for listeria. The burritos are sold nationwide and are even served in schools. For a complete list of the affected burritos, you can head to fsis.usda.gov/recalls. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Nauman and Associates, Scott Tucker Solutions Incorporated, and by Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. developed by doctors. Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way to have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. No problems both ways on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 18 minutes. Getting slow on the outbound side, 33 minutes, about a 10-minute delay. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 13 minutes. Same thing on the outbound side. Inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 19 minutes. Outbound is 15. And if you're traveling on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, looking good at 14 minutes inbound. Outbound is 11. We are shut down on the westbound side of Garfield Boulevard on the south side with police activity between Wentworth Avenue and before Wells Street. And also Lakeshore Drive slows down as you approach Hollywood Avenue. Tapping on those brakes on the Tri-State northbound as you approach the outbound Eisenhower. This report is a service of Fox Valley Coins. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Tonight, expect a bit of evening rain, then clearing up with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Just to put additional context on the discussion we were having last hour about the No Kings rallies over the weekend. I mentioned at the outset Trump's approval rating, RCP average, north of 45%, higher than Obama's at this point in his second term, higher than W's at this point in his second term. So, don't get too swayed by the idea, there were 3 to 6 million people across the country in these silly, self-indulgent rallies. Well, that's all well and good. That's the same thing that with the Women's March rallies back in 2017, and the same thing intermittently throughout Trump's tenure and just presence. So, this is nothing new. The same people running the same program. And how's it working? There was a good piece last week by Rui Teixeira over at Liberal Patriot. Remember, this is a group mainly of centrist Democrats that want the Democrat Party to win. Okay. So it's not like they're providing these uncomfortable and inconvenient facts because they're trying to whip up, a Trump voter turnout in the midterms. That's not what they're doing. And we talked to Michael Bahrain from Liberal Patriot routinely. It's good conversation because it's, substantive here. He does share in his piece, this survey done last month by the Searchlight Institute, which is a Dem polling firm. Searchlight is named in honor of, I think it's in honor of Harry Reid. I think it's a former Harry Reid staffer, and I think he was from Searchlight, Nevada, and that's why Searchlight. So anyway, it's Dem. That's the point. The question they asked in the survey across a range of life goods, who do you think, Republicans or Democrats, want this good for your life? Who wants you to have this in your life? Republicans or Democrats? More so. Here are the goods. Feeling stable in your personal life, having a good job, being able to retire, being able to regularly go on vacation, owning a home, owning a car or truck, creating wealth for your children, being your own boss, having children, marriage. Who is more likely to want that for you? The good things in life. Well, maybe except marriage. I'm kidding, sort of. The good things in life that make for a stable, successful, independent life, rewarding life, actualized. The only one of those things where those surveyed said Democrats had an advantage, feeling stable in your personal life, barely. Every other life good, having a good job, being able to retire, being able to regularly go on vacation, owning a home, owning a car, creating wealth for your kids, being your own boss, having children, and marriage. Every one of those, Republicans have an advantage in the public's mind of who wants these things, which party more wants these things for me. So that's where it comes, the rubber meets the road, as it were, when it comes to how people vote. This is what informs their votes, their interests in a good life, and who's representing said interests in helping them, in their mind, obtain that good life. And Dems are on the wrong side of virtually everything. So just, keep that. It's a snapshot. Things can change. But keep that in the back of your mind as you process the No Kings rallies and the propagandizing by the legacy media about said rallies. All right. Speaking of the good things in life, like being safe where you live, not just feeling safe, but actually being safe. So this story of a woman in Chicago who was attacked. This is the only way we talk about these things. And, there's a description or a news story about it and try to make the case that the safety in Chicago or anywhere else isn't just about murder rates and shootings. Murders and shootings go up, things are getting worse. Murders and shootings go down, things are getting better. It's not that simple. That's the simplistic reporting you get from the D.C. press corps and in support of the politicians that they serve. But what happened to this girl, and you're about to hear her in her own words because she was courageous enough to post the story online, and good for her for doing it, because it makes it real. It's tangible. There's an actual young woman, a human being. And you think about, in a way that I tell you, think about if this was your daughter reading a news story. It doesn't quite have the same emotional impact as actually seeing and hearing from a victim in her own words. So this is her, I guess, coming back from, I can't remember where she was coming back from, but she had just gotten off the Blue Line, I think at LaSalle. And then this happened to her. And remember, when you're hearing this, this happens thousands of times every year in Chicago, in addition to all of the other violent crime. And you have a political ruling class that suggests that there's no problem here, that they're working on it, and if you suggest there's a problem, then you're manufacturing a crisis that doesn't exist.
Initially, I wasn't going to speak out about this because I didn't want anyone to know that this had happened to me. But I feel for raising awareness to other girls that this is important, as well as the fact that I wanted to put my story out there because there's also video camera footage of the event happening that Chicago PD doesn't believe that they'll be able to obtain to hopefully catch who did this to me and bring any type of justice or closure. I feel that I'm just as naive as the next person. You see these things happening on TikTok and social media and you never believe that these things happen to you. I always feel that I have good due diligence walking around the city, head on a swivel. I never wear AirPods when I'm walking around. I try to never be on my phone, and that's exactly how I was in this scenario. I was walking, my phone was in my bag, looking forward, like no AirPods, no nothing, just trying to go home after my workout class. And before I continue to get into this, I want to say thank you. There was a girl who saw everything happen, stayed with me, rushed over to help me, stayed with me until the police came while I got checked out by EMTs, and until that the cops took me back home, stayed with me through the entire thing. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. There is still good people in this world. There's a lot of cruel people, but you are a very good person. Last night, when I was getting off of the LaSalle Blue Line stop, I was walking down Ida B. Wells Drive, where Ida B. Wells meets Financial Plaza underneath the underpass where the Metro goes above. And as I'm walking, there was a man who came up behind me on a bike. Mind you, no AirPods, not on my phone, nothing. Came up behind me, and before I could either run or step away, he grabs me and throws me into the street over this brown railing in front of a car that almost hit me. Mind you, this car saw everything happening and didn't stop, didn't get out, just honked and then drove around when they were able to. As this man grabbed onto me and threw me into the street, he also got a hand on my leggings, ripped my leggings off of me, so I'm completely exposed in the street, where he then proceeded to grab me and assault me in the middle of the street with everyone to see. There was a girl who saw everything happening and she ran up and she started screaming at him. He then proceeded to throw the rest of my body into the street because my legs were hanging over this railing, and then got on his bike and ran away. Sped away, however you want to put it. I'm now laying in the middle of the street in complete shock of not knowing what just happened, how this happened, why this happened, and that's something I'll never know why this happened. I don't know this person. I don't know why and try to rob me, take anything from me, just attack me and assault me and leave me in the street. And the worst part is there's a camera that caught everything, as well as another girl who saw everything and gave her statement to the police. But Chicago PD believes that they can't obtain the camera footage to know who this guy is, anything about the scene, because it's on Metro property. Man was about 5'8", Hispanic, wearing actually an identical black hoodie to mine and wearing a COVID surgical mask, and was also on a little kid's bike. I had no intentions of ever bringing this online, talking about this honestly to anyone else who already knows, but I feel like not enough girls talk about their stories and what happens to them, and it doesn't bring enough awareness and attention, because I feel like we see this stuff online and on TikTok every day. I see it, and it's one of those things that you never believe would happen to you, but unfortunately it can. Honestly, it just pains me to know that this man is still out there and can do it to another girl, another guy for that instance, and I don't know if he'll ever get caught or if I will ever get justice for what had happened.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. What should we tell her? Like Jelly Belly says, it's just big city living? That's just the kind of stuff that happens in big cities. Somebody's fault. Right? They're working on it. You know, the problem is that Trump has withheld some of the funding that BLM Brandon wants to pass out to violence interrupters so that he gets more storefront preachers on the payroll to whip the vote come 2027 to at least get him in a runoff and have a chance to play racial politics in the general election, hopefully against a honky and win re-election. Oh, did I disclose the re-election strategy? Couldn't be more obvious. But that's the real problem, right? We don't have enough violence interrupter money from the feds. Is that it? Or, hey, young lady, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but I've got some great news for you. You know, the murder rate in the city is at a 25-year low, we're supposed to believe. That make you feel better? You think that young woman is ever going to not live in fear in the city of Chicago again? That's what we're talking about. Quality of life. Is that how you should live in a big city, Chicago or anywhere else, for that matter? In constant fear? Because, well, first of all, I mean, there's layers to this. First of all, people who saw it who didn't help her, I mean, shame on them. And as she said, the other young lady that helped her, good for her. I hope she can be identified, too, as a good example. The Good Samaritan I'm talking about. The police, I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but the idea that they can't obtain footage from a Metro camera, bull jive. They get a prosecutor in there, and once you have, I mean, once you have all of the evidence that can be gathered, get a prosecutor in there and subpoena the video from Metro if Metro won't cooperate. I can't imagine why Metro wouldn't. All right, so that's the specific here, but the larger issue is that just happened to her. That horrible incident just happened to her. It happens thousands of times, mostly to women, with male predators, and so you want to just talk about murders and shootings, and this is something we should ignore because, unfortunately, as that young woman said, most are afraid to tell their stories, to tell what happened to them, or don't want to bring publicity, understandably so. Manufactured crisis. No problems here. Let's fight over whether or not the National Guard can be deployed here to provide extra security to the Broadview ICE facility while ICE agents do their jobs enforcing federal immigration law. That's where we should focus our attention, right? Not on the fact that we're 2,000 cops down and BLM Brandon in his budget proposes, tax increases to fund, again, walking around money for political operatives masquerading as preachers and violence interrupters. So those people who are completely on board with the Pritzker Purge law and the defund, non-prosecution, decarceration philosophy of the political ruling class in Illinois, the kind of attitude, an approach to law enforcement that has a 7-time convicted felon finally getting life in prison after he murdered a convenience store worker. This was last week. Robbery in West Rogers Park 3 years ago. 7-time convicted felon. Couldn't put him away until he killed somebody. What do you have to say to the convenience store worker family? Big city living? Working on it? It's Trump's fault? Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking a call, Dan. It's not defund the police, it's redirect the funds of the police department. They want those funds going into those cities to give to those individuals. In fact, Quinn gave $55 million away to these individuals. After the audit was done, they put the money in their pockets. They never did any of the follow-up they were supposed to do with those individuals. This is all just a money grab. And the sad thing about it is our lives, our property, Our cost of living is in jeopardy. We've got to get these guys out of these positions. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, he's right. This is nothing new under the sun. This the same racket that Pat Quinn ran with state money when he was looking at re-election in 2014. There was an investigation into that. The great Jack Lavin, who's a business champion now at the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, he was in on that. Of course, it came close. I think it came close to prosecutions, but it never got there. And you think all these people in positions of authority want, going back to that rundown from the survey that Rui Toucher wrote about, you think they want that from you? Or for you, I should say, in your life? You think they care? They care so much about you. Solidarity. This is us. We're all in it together. Bull jive. You have to be, cosmically Pollyannish to believe that. Roger, Southside.
Yeah, that's a tough story with that girl. I don't think you do touch on it, Dan, and have for as long as you've been on the air. But we are facing a complete meltdown here in Cook County that affects the rest of the state because of our judges and because of our lawmakers who have reduced the criminal code in Springfield through politics, through, either steered or unbalanced elections, through Tony, or Madigan, or all the rest of them. Every one of them is responsible in one way, shape, or form. The only way I see the entire thing, any movement, is the debunking or the bankruptcy, because it's the only way you're going to stop it here. You have to tear it down completely. How many years it'll take? It might not be in our lifetime, but eventually, young professionals, girls and guys are not going to be overpaying for studios downtown at $2,500 a month, and on top of it, have to worry about their lives. It's ridiculous,
Thanks for the call, Roger. Text from 630. Dear Dan, I'm going to pray one of my rosaries for that girl today. I'm also praying our Lord helps us here in Chicagoland. Yeah, that's worthwhile. Both counts. But, what's the old saying? We need to pray like it depends on God and act like it depends on us. We need a little bit more of the latter. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Honey, what's for dinner?
Honestly, nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Because every time I need a pan, I have to unload half the kitchen first.
It's like Jenga, but with casserole dishes.
Exactly. And I always lose.
At Forever Remodeling, we create kitchens that fit your life, not the other way around. From smart storage to stunning finishes, start cooking in a kitchen built just for you. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com.
If your cash is sitting in a savings account, it's at risk. Old school advice says save more, but today the strategy is broken. When inflation spikes, they print money or cut rates, your dollar shrinks. So do your savings. The solution? Own something real. Physical gold and silver. When the dollar drops, gold and silver prices rise. And with Noble Gold, owning gold is simple. Just visit noblegoldinvestments.com and chat with a specialist. The knowledge is free. The protection is priceless. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions.
If you're having trouble keeping up with your bills, it's time to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender, about a fresh start debt consolidation mortgage. Sam, 56, press operator, earning $90,000 a year, living in a $300,000 single-family home with a $150,000 mortgage. Despite having equity in his home, Sam missed his January mortgage payment, which dropped his credit score more than 60 points and prevented him from refinancing until February of next year. If Sam had called Team Hochberg in December, they could have helped him pay off his debt, avoid missing his mortgage payment, and enhance his credit score. If you're struggling with bills and have equity in your home, call Team Hochberg now, not tomorrow, not next week or next month. Call them at 855-863-2843. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of AM 560 listeners, but they can't help you if you don't call 855-563-2843. Or visit them online at 56david.com. The number again is 855-563-2843. 563-2843 or visit the website you know and love, 56david.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, we'll talk Trump on China and other matters economic in nature with our friend Jim Urio. Jim Urio, Money and Markets, 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 43 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keane in the AM 560 newsroom. The Trump administration is intensifying its focus on immigration enforcement, particularly in major cities like Los Angeles and here in Chicago. Chief U.S. Border Patrol Ron Vitiello joins Fox News Live over the weekend to react to the situation at the border.
The border is in better shape than I've ever seen it in 40 years, and so the American public should be proud of what they voted for and now what they're getting in return as it relates to a secure border.
Now, this comes amid rising assaults on ICE officers, which Border Czar Tom Homan has warned could lead to bloodshed. 11 people were arrested by federal ICE agents during an operation at parking lots near O'Hare International Airport over the weekend. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino posted on X that the agency had, quote, arrested dozens of illegal alien rideshare operators taking jobs from American citizens out there last week. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you can save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Scott Jennings isn't seeing anything new from the Democrats.
Democrats for years, 4 years, have called for illegal aliens to receive free health care from the government. No one really disputes that is the Democratic official position. It is the major tenet of their party's health care platform.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you a small business with just a couple of computers? Or maybe 50? Then listen up, because your business deserves the same protection and support the big guys get. Small businesses are the backbone of our country, and they're often overlooked. Not with Turnkey. We're entirely focused on the small business community. For 30 years, our multi-generational family-run IT company has been the trusted technical partner for small businesses just like yours. We're not some giant monolithic faceless corporation. We're local, we're personal, and we're passionate about helping small businesses thrive. From advanced backup, antivirus, and anti-ransomware to help desk support that actually helps, we've got your back. And right now, we're offering new customers a powerful firewall router, a local and cloud backup device, plus your first month of service absolutely free. Because at our core, we believe small businesses deserve big protection. At Turnkey, we're champions of small business. So visit us at turnkey.pro. That's turnkey.pro.
Hi, this is Sean Thompson. When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Alpha Wealth Group, Tom Fortino understands the nuts and bolts of retirement planning. The investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and much more. But think about it. What are you really trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P, or is your goal to make memories with your family? At Alpha Wealth Group, their goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Tom Fortino and the team at Alpha Wealth Group to learn more. You can do it today. Call 630 864-6711. The number again, 630-864-6711. To schedule a no-obligation consultation. You can do it today online as well at alphawealthgroup.com. That's alphawealthgroup.com.
If you have an IRA or 401k, then this message is definitely one you need to hear. The price of 1 troy ounce of silver has more than doubled in the past 24 months, and silver is poised for huge gains in the near term. That's why when you call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD, you'll be positioned for the next wave of dramatic growth in precious metals. The devaluation of the U.S. dollar and the volatility of the stock market all play a part in why silver continues to be a safe haven location for your assets, and why precious metals continue to dominate in an uncertain financial climate. Learn more when you call 800-741-GOLD. We'll send you a free precious metals guide, plus a copy of former IMF Chairman Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. The time is now for you to consider silver to protect your retirement. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-4653 right now. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Protect your liver and give it the support it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or at newnordicusa.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still in great shape both ways on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 25 minutes. Outbound is 40. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 20 minutes. Outbound is 15. Inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 20. Outbound 15. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 17 minutes. Outbound is 11. Stop and go inbound on the Jane Addams as you approach the Tri-State and jammed on the northbound Tri-State, heading towards the outbound Eisenhower and again at the outbound Kennedy. This report is sponsored by Straight Talk Wireless. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the gift master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get real unlimited data on Verizon's 5G network, Straight Talk, available at straighttalk.com or Walmart. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Expect a bit of evening rain tonight, then clearing up and remaining breezy with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and the trade imbroglio with the Chinese communists has not gotten as much attention recently because of everything else going on with quote-unquote shutdowns of the federal government and no kings rallies and pardons and commutations and Middle East peace deals and all of that. But it's still very real as the Chinese Communist Party has gotten pretty aggressive in withholding rare earths from American companies, and this has triggered an escalation of both rhetoric and proposed tariffs. Trump was on Maria Bartiromo over the weekend, and he had this to say about those Chinese communists, including his friend, in quotation marks, President Xi.
This subject, it's a very complex subject, but China has ripped us off from day one. And, Richard Nixon, he allowed this to happen. He was the one, he opened China, and I said, is that good or bad? You tell me. He unleashed it. And we have a very strong adversary, and they only respect strength.
The export controls I mentioned on things like lithium batteries, Trump characterized as sinister and hostile. But the question, I suppose, is should we take the lead from American business elites like NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, or those that have a more cynical view of the Chinese communists, like, say, Palantir Chief Technology Officer Shyam Sankar, who argues that those who are taking a dovish approach to the Chinese Communist Party, like Jensen Huang, who said it doesn't have to be all us or all them. It could be us and them. There's still the opportunity to collaborate here and have a mutually beneficial relationship. To that, Shyam Sankar writes, a nice sentiment, but Chinese Communist parties don't believe it. They often speak soothingly of their country's peaceful rise, quote unquote, but the party's history and actions tell a different story. No kidding. The Communist Party believes China and the U.S. are locked in a great struggle for mastery. In this worldview, it is enough for China to rise. The U.S. must fall. Sankar goes on to say, China is already waging war against us in many ways. These include withholding rare earth minerals, attempting to smuggle crop diseases into the U.S. to harm our food supply, pre-positioning electronic devices to cripple American telecom and emergency response systems. We talked a little bit about that last week, that 60 Minutes piece. And subsidizing the production of and export of chemicals used to manufacture fentanyl. Of course, we know the collusion with Mexican drug cartels. Beijing's goal, writes Sankar, is to weaken us while mobilizing for a future showdown we would lose. China's military aims aren't secret. The People's Liberation Army does target practice on mock-ups of U.S. aircraft carriers. Beijing's economic strategy complements this goal. China spends roughly 5% of gross domestic product on industrial subsidies. This is conquest economics meant to drive competitors out of business and make them dependent on China. Beijing's standard playbook is to accept Western businesses until it has developed a credible challenger, then to exclude Western companies from the Chinese market and flood overseas markets with Chinese goods. Business leaders who play along with Beijing call to mind Upton Sinclair's observation that it is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon him not understanding it. Well, I don't know if I'd be quoting Upton Sinclair, but I take the point. Along those lines, it was an interesting discussion in a recent episode of the All In podcast with these tech impresarios like Chamath Palihapitiya and David Sachs, Trump's crypto czar. This is what they had to say about Chinese Communist Party capital allocation.
A lot of people don't know this historical artifact, which I think is so fascinating, which is I don't think China is a rising power. I think China is a reascending power. And the reason I say that is if you go back to 1500 to now, over all of those years, China had the world's largest GDP 70% of those years. Yep. 70%. So if you think about it in that context, especially as a Confucian society, I think the Chinese think about this as, hold on, this is reasserting the dominance that we've always had. And I think if you start to look at it through that lens, that's why they view the blending of public-private partnerships, the organizations that go and help backstop private companies in China. The other interesting thing, which I learned studying China, is how they allocate capital. The capital allocation system is both rigid, but it's incredibly flexible. What do I mean? The way that China allocates money is the following. You have Xi Jinping and his close circle of people. They dictate the priorities, right? I would think there was an article, Nick, you can find it. But Xi is personally right now helping to draft the 5-year business plan of China. But what happens is it goes from that central group of like 7, 8, 9 people to the Politburo. And when it gets approved by the Politburo, it gets sent to all the provinces and then it gets sent to the prefectures. So an example was in 2006 and 2007 when they decided to prioritize EVs. What you effectively have is a cascading set of venture capitalists who are operating against a national priority, and then they are rewarded for it. And so you essentially have 300 VCs running around, organizing human capital in all of these different provinces against all of these different priorities. And at the end of that, you get a BYD or you get a Xiaomi or you get these great companies. And I think that is what's so daunting if you think about it. So that's another thing that
was Chamath Palihapitiya on that. Let's fold Jim Iuorio into the conversation. Jim Iuorio, the host of the Future's Edge podcast, special contributor to wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related, and, of course, the proprietor of Brandt's Restaurant in Palatine, and maybe a future location in Beijing. I'm not sure. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, where do you come down on sort of the, to use an imprecise dichotomy, should we be more dovish or more hawkish with President Xi and the boys?
Well, I love the fact that Chamath, that's how you pronounce his name, right? Chamath. I love the fact that he brought up the 500-year history, because everyone thinks, since 1960, 1970, that China's this big rising power. In their mind, they were the rising power before. I think that's interesting. So when you have to break down, because the rare earth metals thing is such a frustrating discussion, because let's just dial back the clock 30 years. And we're talking about rare earths, we can talk about the entire supply chain, which touches China from every angle. But the rare earths part of it is that rare earths are not rare. They're not particularly, they're difficult and clumsy to mine and refine, and there's clear environmental issues. So what was our answer here when the environmental left started to rise up and be very, very vocal, is that we move that all to China. However, that far left still uses their iPhones, still basks in the luxury of a defense system that's best in the world. So it's just like we pushed the problem somewhere else and then acted like it went away. So there's been 30 years of that, and we can't get anything done here anymore. If we try to open up a mine, and we did just open a mine a couple of weeks ago that makes antimony, which I had never heard of antimony until now, but it's apparently something very important in defense. But if we try to do those things, we are going to get stopped by the environmentalists at every turn. So it's going to be a very difficult thing to do. We had Vivek Ramaswamy on our show, The Future's Edge, about 2 years ago, and when he was clearly part of the Trump team, well, he's actually running for president at the time. But he made the point that if we are going to reroute everything away from China, we are talking about 5 to 7 to maybe even 10 years of a lower standard of living in that transition period. So the question I ask you, I guess, is do we here have the stomach for that, or are we going to vote out any officials who try to push the thing? It's a huge issue.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, just listening to Chamath talk about the capital allocation. Yeah, I mean, okay, so they've had some wins from their sort of central planned venture capitalism, which is kind of a contradiction in terms. But at the end of the day, I would suggest that Xi's 5-year plans are probably don't have any better success rate than Stalin's, which induced a famine in Eastern Europe. And that he's no better at picking winners and losers than Terry McAuliffe was with Solyndra and other green energy gambits a generation ago. So, I mean, what if that's if how Chamath described it is accurate, and I believe it is, then what are we afraid of? I mean, I go back to what he said. They're a reascending power, but there's also this question that we have to answer. For those who want to be more hawkish about China is, look, why have they always punched below their weight? Why don't they have the economic power that 1.5 billion people would suggest they have, 5 times more population than the United States? Well, it's because they're communists and because the means of production are controlled by the state.
Because they don't have the beauty and the power of capitalism.
Yeah. So then I'm a little challenged to understand why this is. I understand they're a hostile actor, and I understand that their illegalities and their incursions and efforts to destabilize anything from agriculture to our power grid need to be addressed. But I mean, why are we so concerned about their ascent or reascent? It's not going to happen.
Because I think what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, and I agree with what you're saying, is that the way we handled the Iron Curtain and the Soviet Union was to handle it economically instead of any sort of war.
Yes, I mean,
I like what you're saying.
As George Will famously said, the Cold War is over and the University of Chicago won it.
Exactly, right, exactly, no doubt about it, right. But what you're saying takes some time. So the question becomes, look in a mirror here, do we have the wherewithal to withstand some difficult time while we're trying to cut off China from the global supply chain, which is not going to be an easy thing. And then will everybody just get voted out and we'll be back to square one? That's what I think is a possibility. I like what you're saying, and I actually think what you're saying that's my base case, is that they will falter economically and it'll turn into a rout, and we will make them a little less powerful at the same time we're rerouting through India and Vietnam and other countries that might be more friendly to us. But it takes some time, and the question is, will the American people put up with it?
Well, there's an interesting piece about not just onshoring, but inshoring. And I wonder about this dynamic, what you think, if this is sort of a one-off or this is something that may be gaining more appeal for American companies. Small towns like Tahlequah, Oklahoma, Provalis, which provides big companies with outsourced services such as insurance claims processing, and cybersecurity monitoring, is expanding revenue by 35 to 40% a year with an unusual playbook, investing in rural America. The company has around 250 open jobs now, with hundreds more in the pipeline. Instead of locating its service and technology jobs in metro areas or sending them to countries such as the Philippines, Provalis seeks out small towns, mostly in the South, looking for places where the average individual income hovers around $30,000. There, according to company executives, Provalis finds people who are eager for jobs that will teach them 21st century skills, but who have few opportunities. It's a stab at reversing decades of disinvestment in rural communities as a model for creating jobs in often overlooked pockets of the economy. That's interesting.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's totally interesting. But here's what I worry about. And just think about the minimum wage thing when they wanted to make it 15 or 50 or 100 or whatever the crazies wanted to make it. They were not making any distinction between Manhattan and rural Oklahoma for that minimum wage, which I think it just shows this level of stupidity that it's astounding. But so I worry about the regulators coming in and regulating the heck out of this. There's another thing I'd add to. You mentioned adding hundreds of jobs. When manufacturing left here, obviously hundreds of thousands of jobs left. If manufacturing came back, and I know you weren't talking about manufacturing specifically, it is much less labor intensive. Of course, there's construction and there's engineering jobs for programmers and things like that, but there's not the same sort of rural America jobs on the line, which that'll never come back, and nor do we want it to come back. But I think that is amazing. But the reshoring thing, again, I'm going back to the same thing, is these things take time. And will the American people be smart enough to know that we've changed lanes and now we're in the right lane pushing forward, but obviously not at the pace that everybody is used to in 2025 where it's instant gratification?
Well, can we have our cake and eat it too, in the sense of, can we take what I guess Sankar over at Palantir would characterize as a more dovish approach, the Jensen Huang sort of philosophy about the Chinese Communist Party, and at the same time continue to encourage American businesses to locate supply chains in countries that are not named China, and otherwise, again, win on the competitive battlefield because they have this 800-pound weight on their backs called the Chinese Communist Party.
So I think what you're saying is, could Donald Trump have been more subtle and nuanced? I don't think he really has much of a definition of what those words are. And again, I am a supporter. I think that the better way, I agree with Jensen Huang, I think it should have been gradual, and only because that's what the American people will vote for at the next election. That's just an opinion, of course, but any sort of really disruptive sort of thing, which is what we're going through now, might be. And I still, by the way, this whole thing, I'm just providing devil's advocate, because I actually agree with you on a lot of this. I think this is the right way to go, and I think the American people are smart enough to realize that. I keep saying the American people, it sounds like I'm running for office. I want people who are listening, I am not running for office. But I think that it is going to work out. I just want people to understand what the downsides are, and the downsides are if people like you can't get the message out effectively, and I think you can. And I'm talking about the media and the pundits, because we being the logical thinking centers is always on the back foot, because the media is always portraying things like everything is going to hell. And I hope that we can get over that. Does that make sense? That was a ramble, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So, so I got a market question, an asset allocation question, if you will. So what's the hedge, gold or crypto?
Well, why do we have to pick? Why can't we mountains?
Well, I only have so much. Jim, I'm not a billionaire like you. I only have so much money. I got to pick one.
No, even if you have $2 to invest, why can't you put $1 to each?
I guess.
Of investing now has been taken away. There's not even money put in. I think that, to answer your question, I still say 2/3 gold. No, 3/4 gold, 1/4 Bitcoin is my hedge. But I also include real estate and platinum, because they're all talking about the debasement trade now. If these people have been watching us on the Futures Edge or reading the Unfiltered Investor, we've been talking about the debasement trade for 4 or 5 years. So when JP Morgan starts to jump on and say, 20% gold, we as people who actually are nimble in the markets think, oh, shoot, are we in the last stage? And the answer to that is probably yes, but the last stage could last several years. I'm talking about the dollar debasement trade, and that's owning things that Dennis Gartman used to say would hurt if you dropped them on your foot. Although I don't see how you can drop real estate on your foot, but I think y'all get the message. But I think that trade is still good, and I think mostly gold and then some Bitcoin. And by the way, I barely even know what Bitcoin is. Here's what I do know, is that the biggest names are broadening their footprint into the crypto space. I'm not going to be on the sidelines for that.
Mm-hmm. And on gold, I mean, some people suggest that sort of there's a little bit of induced hysteria about hard money that is driving gold to all-time highs. It's a little bit of a sugar high based on, as I said, sort of trying to foment concern of false, hype anxiety. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's no? I mean, this is a smart play.
No, I think it's been a smart play for a couple of years. Once central banks started really stockpiling gold at a rate they hadn't done in 80 years, and that kind of all relates back to when we froze Russia out of the SWIFT payment system and froze up their dollar-denominated assets. Global central banks were like, oh, wow, they can do this pretty heavy-handed thing, so let's buy more gold and get out of some dollars. I'm not a big de-dollarization trade, but it's moved. 64% of global reserves were held in dollars in 2017. Now it's only 56%, and what's taken the place is gold. I actually am giving a speech, I think it's 2 weeks from today in New Orleans, because I think that the new play is owning physical gold, but then hedging physical gold within the paper market, GLD, or the futures contracts. And because I think the next move, and again, the last 2 months in gold, I think, is the fear of missing out trade, and it's moving down to the retail level. But just knowing that we're in the last stages of it doesn't mean you can predict when it's over. We still could have 2 years of going higher in gold, which I actually think we will.
Jim Iuono is host of the Futures Edge podcast, special contributor to wirepoints.org, and the proprietor of Brandt's Restaurant in Palatine. Jim, thanks as always.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And Jim joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have an IRA or 401k, this is a message you really need to hear. In just the last 2 years, the price of 1 troy ounce of silver has more than doubled, and silver is now poised for major gains in the months ahead. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD to learn how to convert a portion of your retirement assets into physical silver and position yourself for the next wave of growth in precious metals. It's not too late to leverage the power of silver to help secure your financial future. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to Stephen Bucci, our weekly conversation about war and peace, geopolitical matters. The peace in the Middle East is on shaky ground, and should Trump provide tomahawks to the Ukrainians? We'll start there with Stephen Bucci at 7:07. It is now 7 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Gun and rocket fire don't end the ceasefire. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Either way, it's going to be handled properly.
That's President Trump with reporters on Air Force One.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Fox's Rich Edson's at the White House.
2 Israeli soldiers were killed after attacks. Israel responded with about 100 airstrikes. The Israeli government says that Hamas militants emerged from a tunnel, fired an anti-tank rocket at one of its positions. The IDF says it will respond forcefully to any violation of the ceasefire agreement. Hamas's leaders claim they had no knowledge of the attack.
And Palestinian officials say the Israeli strikes killed at least 36 people in Gaza, as Israel still waits for the remains of 16 more dead hostages not yet turned over by Hamas. Back to the president on Air Force One. He also reacted to Saturday's No Kings anti-Trump rallies.
I'm not a king. I work my off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
He also called the protests very small and ineffective and not representative of the people of our country.
We cannot just stand by and let this person ruin this wonderful country that we have.
She was at the Los Angeles demonstration. No Kings organizers say about 7 million people protested. It is day 20 of the government shutdown. And as the standoff over funding continues in Congress, federal workers have deemed essential have to keep working without pay, including air traffic controllers. Some have called out sick, and over the weekend there were more than 13,000 flight delays, another 800 this morning. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy just told Fox.
I think what you might see is more disruptions in travel as more of them look to say, how do I bridge the gap between the check that's not coming and putting food on my table? And we've heard they're taking Uber jobs, they're doing DoorDash.
Amazon says it's making progress getting web services fully restored after an early morning outage affected popular sites and apps, causing disruptions that could still linger as operations ramp back up. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 43 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Kane in the AM 560 newsroom. A federal appeals court has blocked the deployment of National Guard troops here in Chicago following the president's plan to send them to quell anti-ICE protests, and the Supreme Court is now being asked to intervene. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the details.
Justice Department lawyers want the Supreme Court to weigh in for the first time. They suggest federal troops and federal buildings are at risk from violent mobs without support from the National Guard. Just on Friday, more than a dozen people were arrested for protesting at an ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois. They were charged with resisting, obstruction, or disobeying police. The Chicago-based 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, in its ruling Thursday, says in part the facts do not justify the president's actions in Illinois. Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is responding to the administration's appeal, saying he'll keep defending the sovereignty of his state. The High Court is asking for the opposition's response to the administration's filing by 5 p.m. on Monday.
The Trump administration called the decision part of a recurring pattern that, quote, impedes the president's authority over the military. And a legislator says a federal program could provide over $100 million in scholarships for children here in Illinois, but the state must opt in to benefit. Katrina Barker has the story.
In 2025, Congress passed a key Republican bill that included creating a federal tax credit for donations to scholarship granting organizations. Illinois House Minority Leader Tony McCombie introduced House Bill 4099 to opt the state in, with strong support from State Representative Adam Niemerg.
News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560. The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Aid for Women, Breakthrough Ideas, and by Attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
These days, people who are in pain are taking control of their health and looking beyond traditional medicine. Dan Proft here from my friends at QC Kinetics. People just like you are finding lasting relief without steroids, medications, or surgery here in Chicagoland at QC Kinetics. Here's how it works. Your blood contains tiny but mighty healing tools. At QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli and her team get to the root of where your pain stems and concentrates these natural healing tools in the exact location. By putting these natural elements to work, your body can revitalize joints, literally using your own power to heal. It's a simple injection, not a hospital stay. It's fast, all natural, and there's no downtime. So, if your back, knees, or shoulders are keeping you from enjoying life, call my proud sponsor, QC Kinetics, today and schedule a free consultation with Dr. Caravelli and her team. Call QC Kinetics now, 312-827-3737. 312-827-6261. Again, that phone number, 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261. And tell them I sent you when you do.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still in pretty good shape on the Eden. Inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose is 20 minutes. Outbound is 14. The Kennedy does slow down inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange, 38 minutes. Outbound is 41. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 23 minutes. Outbound is 22. The Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 27. Outbound is 20. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange is 21. Outbound is 11. Police activity on the south side is closing down the westbound side of Garfield Boulevard from Wentworth Avenue to before Wells Street. We are stop and go northbound on Lakeshore Drive as you head towards Hollywood Avenue, and jammed on the northbound Tri-State approaching the outbound Eisenhower, and again as you head towards the outbound Kennedy. Traffic is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Expect a bit of evening rain tonight, then clearing up and remaining breezy with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We've got a lot to cover with Stephen Bucci, so we best get right to it. A lot of developments and theaters of war. In Israel, that ceasefire violated. 2 soldiers killed, 3 wounded after gunmen emerged from a tunnel and launched an RPG attack in Rafah, southern Gaza. The ambush happened inside an area under Israeli control as part of the ceasefire deal. The troops were clearing Hamas tunnels when the attack hit. The reporting is RPGs slammed into an excavator. Sniper fire followed, and reinforcements came under fire too. In response, Israeli Defense Forces launched a wave of airstrikes targeting tunnel systems and positions tied to the gunmen. And then Netanyahu ordered all Gaza crossings closed and halted humanitarian aid. That was in response to what Israel called the ceasefire violation I just described. But after pressure from the Trump administration, Israeli officials say the decision has been walked back. Aid deliveries will now resume today, this morning, though the Rafah crossing remains closed for now. Israel says it won't reopen Rafah until Hamas speeds up the return of hostages and the bodies of fallen soldiers. And the airstrikes are ongoing. So, unsurprisingly, this is not going to be a straight line in terms of a sustained peace in the region, particularly when you're dealing with a Hamas, a terrorist organization, that is. Trump had this to say in his sit-down with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend about Hamas and disarming Hamas. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet.
Well, they promised they would. They said they would. It's down that they would. Now, they said they were gang members, et cetera, But these are very violent people. This is a very violent part of the world. Nobody's seen violence like this. If we have to, we'll disarm them.
The U.S.?
Well, whether it's me or the U.S. or it's, a proxy, could be Israel, with our backing, we won't have boots on the ground. There's no reason to. So they killed 1,200 people in the October 7th attack. It was an attack. They killed 1,200, but Israel can say that we killed 50,000. And so you'd say it's a whole new set of people. And it is. I mean, they get replaced by other people, young people. But we're going to find out. So it's not a hard timeline, but it's a line in my own mind. And at a certain point, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then we'll have to do it for them.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you for joining us, as always.
It's always my pleasure to be on the show, Dan.
So Trump reiterated what he had said last week, which is either they disarm or I will disarm them. But what is your reaction to this this incident? And I mean, and soldiers were killed. I mean, this is not inconsequential. This incident that led to renewed hostilities.
Well, it's sadly, I'm not surprised. Actually, I'm kind of surprised we got this far, from the signing to now before we had an issue like this. Hamas is not an exceedingly disciplined organization. It's got a lot of folks who are, they're true believers, and and they think they're killing, and terror is religiously mandated. So, you get individuals who say, well, I don't care what the bosses say. I'm not going to give in and work with Israel. I'm going to go take it in my own hands. Or, the Hamas leaders think like that, so they could have been an ordered thing as well, pushing the limit. This is what they've always done. Okay, we've got an agreement. Let's push back a little bit, see what we can get away with, at least under this particular framework. So, if anything, we're going to see more of these. Israel's reaction, look, President Trump needs to understand if Israel is getting screwed, he can't, order them to sit back and not do anything. That's what previous administrations have done with Israel, and it didn't work. And that's not the way Netanyahu has been fighting this war. He'll help President Trump as much as he can, but he's going to have a point where he can't do that. He'll lose the right side of his coalition if he does. And now that the hostages, the live ones particularly, are back, and we're working on getting the ones who are deceased back, even the left side of the Israeli political spectrum is not going to be as, upset if he goes and in retribution whack some more Hamas people, because they've gotten what has been their big lift, which is the hostages and the bodies. We've got to, this stuff is going to go on. You can't tie Israel's hands. That's what the other parts of the West wanted to do all this time. America has not done that. We can't start doing it now. That's just not the right thing. So
Yeah,
more
but
to come.
But I mean, what you do seemingly have is, I mean, pardon my roadhouse metaphor, but you have Trump as the cooler, and and he's basically telling Netanyahu, when do we fight? You'll know when we fight when I tell you it's time to fight, and he's going to be the backstop. I mean, that's basically what he's saying.
It is what he's saying, and frankly, I trust him saying it way more than I have any other person sitting in the White House. But Netanyahu, remember, Netanyahu is not, a subordinate of Donald Trump.
No, right.
He's working with him. At a certain point, if stuff starts to happen and Trump says, no, be cool, wait, and Netanyahu says, I'm sorry, Mr. President, it's like the attack on Qatar. They knew President Trump was going to be ticked about that, and they did it anyway because they thought it was in their interest to do it. They had to back off a little bit after that. But I don't know how many times Netanyahu will do that.
I want to move to Eastern Europe. Zelensky was in town peddling his wares and asking again for tomahawks. Here's how he characterized the state of play with the war. Russia not winning, Ukraine not losing.
We are not losing this war, and Putin is not winning. And really, his army now in the weak position. I think so, because they really, from the beginning of this war, they could occupy 1% of our land, but they spend 1,300,000 people.
And Zelensky needs help to put more pressure on Putin.
Enough pressure on him, and he will be ready. In any way, he afraid of his society. More pressure on him, and not so comfortable life for his nation. They will pressure on him. He afraid only of his society, because he wants to be president till he will die. And that's why, of course, he needs society to support him. That's why he count on continuation of this war. And that is what the big question, the big challenge for all of us. That's why I'm not sure that in Budapest he will be ready. But if, God bless, the president will pressure on him, and if Putin will be ready for any format, again, I'm sorry that I'm repeating, any format of negotiations, bilateral, trilateral, any kind of, I think it will be good.
Trump on the tomahawks specifically, he's not quite ready to commit to that yet, he told Bartiromo.
We can't give all of our weapons to Ukraine. We just can't do that. And I've been very good to President Zelensky and to Ukraine, but we can't give, if we're going to be short, I don't want to do that. I can't jeopardize the United States.
So, Stephen Bucci, does Zelensky have it right that more pressure on Putin and making life uncomfortable for ordinary Russians can, however that's going to be affected, can put the necessary pressure on him to bring him to the table, maybe by the time Trump meets with him in Budapest, maybe not?
I don't think by Budapest I don't think it's doable. I mean, we can communicate to Putin that we're supporting Zelensky and put pressure on him that way. I don't think it's necessarily going to get us over the finish line by Budapest. I think Budapest is part of that process of communicating that to him. And I have to say, Zelensky's characterization there of Russia's not winning, Ukraine's not losing, while that's, obviously from his point of view, that's a bit optimistic, it's not incorrect. You think about it, Russia should have crushed Ukraine, in the first weeks of this conflict. They didn't. The Ukrainians are hanging in there. They're holding off Russia, in some cases taking things back from Russia. They even have some of Russia. But on the other hand, Ukraine's taking a beating. Every day, the Russians are hitting more and more civilian targets. So he has some good points. And I think President Trump was amenable about the tomahawks until someone, probably his military and logistical people said, hey, boss, we don't have an unlimited number of these things, and they're kind of important to our capabilities, not just here, but all around the world. Perhaps there's a search going on. Well, what can we give the Ukrainians that is not going to drain our stockpiles of a certain type of capability, but give them some long-range capability? So maybe something short of Tomahawks, but still more than we've given them before. I think all of that's on the table. Trump, whatever Putin said to him on the phone call, Trump was heartened by that and thinks, well, maybe we could do it without flattening sections of Moscow with Tomahawk missiles, because there's some danger if we give that kind of capability that Russia could take things a step, above that, maybe go to tactical nukes, something that nobody wants him to do. I don't think he's really going to do that, but you can't dismiss it completely. You can't be cavalier about it. So, this President Trump is the deal maker, and that means to get the deal, he may make nobody 100% happy, but he's in that process. So I think we have to see. I think pressure is on Putin right now, not just from the world, not just from President Trump, but just from his own situation. Zelensky's analysis is not that far off.
And just, for the layman who's not familiar with the particulars of these different weapons and weapon systems, I think you sort of referenced it, but the unique value of the Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine would be the range, and they would be able to strike Moscow. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the range and the lethality. They're very capable weapons. They're very precise, and they're very expensive, and we don't have an unlimited number of them. So he would like that, top level capability that he doesn't have right now. I think his offer of a bunch of their, precision drones, which are tactical weapons, really, for us, we have drones, but the Ukrainians have developed some really cool tactical level ones that are different than what we have. That's the kind of, that's Trump's wheelhouse. Oh, okay, well, we'll trade you some stuff, some other good stuff. But yeah, the Tomahawks are up at the top level. Perhaps there's something not down at the tactical level, but what in the military we would call the operational level, which is between strategic and tactical. It's long range. It's in the back end of the Russian military formations, maybe some of the cities nearby, but not necessarily being able to range anywhere in across the Russian homeland, but into the Russian homeland. So there's some steps in between, not doing anything more than we're doing now and going to the Tomahawks. And those steps would still be pretty consequential.
And just as an aside, do you think it's true what Caroline Levitt said, that the selection of Budapest as the location for Trump and Putin to meet was made by a Huffington Post's mother?
Oh, I don't have any idea about that one.
Did you see that? Did you see that a Huffington Post reporter asked her, how was that choice made of location, or who made it? And she said, your mother. So we're getting down to the your mom level now with the White House and the D.C. press corps. I just thought that was an interesting moment.
Well, it shows that the D.C. press corps, if you want to work with the Trump administration, you can get a lot of things done. If you want to declare yourself an adversary, it's going to be much harder to get your job done, and maybe stop being so persnickety with them and just do your job of reporting the news.
Yeah, boy, I can't wait for the your mama joke off, like it's like a scene from The Barbershop or something. All right. Venezuela, let's go to our hemisphere. Venezuela had this to say about Maduro, who's closing ranks and, of course, complaining to the UN about the strikes on narco-terrorist boats, saying that's a violation of international law because, he's such a a committed proponent of international law and abiding it. But anyway, here's what Trump had to say about Maduro in no uncertain terms.
Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your attention to this matter. FAFO is what's happening to Maduro, and Trump doesn't seem intent to change course because he's broken off talks about any sort of deal between Venezuela and the United States.
Well, I think what Trump is saying is, he's willing to negotiate with almost anybody, but not with a narco trafficker. And Maduro's regime right now is funded almost exclusively by narco trafficking. The Russians and the Chinese and stuff are not doing the funding stuff they may have done in the past with regimes like Maduro's. So he's totally dependent on drug money. And, Trump is not, while Trump loves to get natural resources, he loves to get access to markets, all that kind of stuff, that's his thing. He's not willing to take that sort of bribe to stop targeting the drugs, which, God bless him. Let's hope he cares more about the health and welfare of the American people than he does about getting some natural resources. And I think he believes he's on a track to get both. He's going to stop the drug trade. Hopefully he'll get rid of Maduro, and then those access to those natural resources will open from a business standpoint that, he'll, not to use the old cliche, but he'll have his cake and he'll be able to eat it too.
Well, sure, if that Nobel Prize winner Machado, the opposition leader, ultimately ascends to the presidency at some point. But he was asked about, whether or not he has green-lighted or would green-light a CIA takeout of Maduro. And, of course, he said, well, I'm not going to answer that kind of question. So what do you think is going on there in terms of the Trump administration's interest in regime change? I mean, is it going to be something where they are willing to push a kinetic event, as they say, to take Maduro out?
I don't know if he's willing to go to that level. I think he's willing to set the conditions, make Maduro as weak as possible so that the natural forces within his own country can get rid of him. But I'm not sure he wants to take on, if we topple a country, this is the old Colin Powell rule. If we break it, we own it. I don't think he wants to directly break that regime, but I think he wants to weaken it so that they can no longer be a threat to the United States, either directly or indirectly. And if in the process of doing that, Maduro disappears and our prize winner steps in and takes the reins, that's not a bad thing for America or the world, frankly.
No, that wouldn't be a bad thing. It'd be a very good thing. Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow to the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.
You too. Thank you. And Stephen joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
According to a 2022 FBI statistic, less than 0.01% of all altercations require a lethal response. Now, think about that. Now, we all have a safety plan. If you don't, you need one that includes firearms. That's only necessary less than 1% of the time. So what is your new plan for 99.99% of the time? Well, you can start with the Byrna launcher, BYRNA. It's the less lethal launcher that can de-escalate any situation for 99% of any altercations. Now, the new Byrna compact launcher is the smallest, less lethal option to date. It's concealable anywhere. It fires powerful kinetic rounds, tear gas, pepper spray. It also can stop an attacker for up to 40 minutes. No background checks, legal in all 50 states. It ships straight to your door. Byrna, because your first line of defense should always be less lethal. Just go to byrna.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family to be safe. That's byrna.com.
These days, people who are in pain are taking control of their health and looking beyond traditional medicine. Dan Proft here for my friends at QC Kinetics. People just like you are finding lasting relief without steroids, medications, or surgery. Here in Chicagoland, they are finding that at QC Kinetics. Here's how it works. Your blood contains tiny but mighty healing tools. At QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli and her team get to the root of where your pain stems from and concentrates these natural healing tools in the exact location. By putting these natural elements to work, your body can revitalize joints, literally using your own power to heal. It's a simple injection, not a hospital stay. It's fast, it's all natural, and there's no downtime. So if your back, knees, or shoulders are keeping you from enjoying life, I want you to explore your options before having surgery by calling my proud sponsor, QC Kinetics, today and scheduling a free consultation with Dr. Caravelli and her team. Again, your first consultation is free, so there's no reason to wait. Call QC Kinetics now at 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. One more time, that number, 312-827-6261, and tell them I sent you when you call.
Welcome back to Ask Hassellus.
What makes Hassellus Mattress different?
Aside from employee-free showrooms, free next-day delivery, and prices that are way too low?
Yeah, besides that.
Hassellus Mattress is locally owned and managed by the same family. So, your money stays right here. And through Monday, you'll get a $248 credit towards a new Beautyrest, Sealy Posturepedic, and Serta Perfect Sleeper just for shopping local.
Thanks.
For what?
For being different.
Find a no-hassle, employee-free showroom near you at Hassellus.com.
If you're looking for a caring dentist and an experienced dental staff who'll treat you like family, then it's time to call Dr. Y at Oak Lawn Dental LLC. Dr. Yorks and his team will create a smile that you'll want to share with family and friends. Go to oaklawndentist.com for a complete list of services or call Oak Lawn Dental for an appointment with Dr. Y at 708-424-5700. And for a limited time, get a $100 credit on your new account. Call 708-424-5700. Oak Lawn Dental LLC for the smile you deserve.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, returning to that big No Kings weekend full of rallies. You know, that CPS teacher that made such a name for herself over the weekend by mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Well, she calls to mind another development over the weekend with respect to the Chicago Teachers Union that involves Stacey Davis Gates, and we'll discuss that at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 44 degrees in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The Trump administration is intensifying its focus on immigration enforcement, particularly in major cities like LA and here in Chicago. Chief of U.S. Border Patrol Ron Vitello joined Fox News Live over the weekend to react to the situation at the border.
The border is in better shape than I've ever seen it in 40 years, and so the American public should be proud of what they voted for and now what they're getting in return as it relates to secure border.
Now, this comes amid rising assaults on ICE officers, which Border Czar Tom Homan has warned could lead to bloodshed. Meanwhile, 11 people were arrested by federal ICE agents during an operation at parking lots near O'Hare International Airport. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that Border Patrol arrested undocumented immigrants. News is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections, or take advantage of limited-time federal rebates on a new furnace. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at air-rite.com. Again, that's air-rite.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by True Power Generator Service, Woodland Windows and Doors, and by Moms for Liberty.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker, and I'm here with
Amy Jacobson
from Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and Amy Jacobson here on AM 560 The Answer. Now, I'm a financial advisor, and Amy's the co-host for our program. You know, Amy, recently President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. A lot of folks aren't realizing, Amy, that if they have highly appreciated assets, they can potentially tax defer the capital gains tax, place that money into a qualified opportunity fund, and then 10 years from now, get back out of that investment and pay no capital gains tax on either investment. Have you heard of such a thing, Amy?
I did not know about that. That seemed to be hidden in the bill.
It's only 900 some pages.
Yeah,
we have to pass it to see what's in it.
An easy beach read, yes.
Yes. And now there's another thing in the bill as well, Amy. Section 1202. Amy, did you read Section 1202?
I did not, but thank you for the homework assignment.
If you're a small business owner, many small business owners can now sell their small business and potentially pay no federal capital gains taxes on that capital gain of selling their business.
Wow.
If you'd like to get a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Text the keyword book. That's BOOK to 224-496-3999. Text the keyword book to 224-496-3999. In addition to a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? You'll also get our entire Retirement Decoded Toolkit. We'll also give you the opportunity to talk to us 15 minutes for free over the telephone at another time so we can go through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act with you, show you how to potentially sell your highly appreciated assets and pay no federal capital gains tax, how qualified opportunity funds work, and also if you're a small business owner, how to potentially pay no capital gains on the sale of your small business through Section 1202, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Text book to 224-496-3999 or call that very same number, 224-496-3999.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm does not offer tax advice.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Protect your liver and give it the support it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or at newnordicusa.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. You got a crash on Lakeshore Drive, and this is southbound just after Irving Park Road. On the northbound side, you do have delays heading into Hollywood Avenue. Looking good on the Eden inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose. It's 21 minutes. Outbound is 14. The Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 46 minutes. Outbound is 42. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 28 minutes. Outbound is 23. The Stevenson inbound from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 38. 21 on the outbound side. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 23 minutes, looking good on the outbound side at 11. This report is sponsored by Straight Talk Wireless. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the gift master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get real unlimited data on Verizon's 5G network. Straight Talk, available at straighttalk.com or Walmart. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now we'll check up your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Tonight, expect a bit of evening rain, then clearing up with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Frost here. Over the weekend with the No Kings rallies around the country, including most notably in Grand Park, some other smaller ones in Park Ridge. I think we have audio from the Park Ridge one. We discussed it a little bit earlier. Here's a little sampling. This is the Park Ridge ladies protesting Trump, saying, we don't do kings in this country. Here's what they had to say.
What do we want?
We don't know.
When do we want it?
Also unclear.
Why do we want it?
Because it was forwarded to us in an email, so it must be true. Yeah!
Yeah, it really got the crowd going in Park Ridge. Down in the city, you heard from many, many deep thinkers like this guy, John Bush. He's a regular run-of-the-mill Chicagoan.
They keep selling that all this is about hate rally, hate this, Hamas this, Hamas that, Do you see any haters here? No. We're all here to make a point that the government is us.
Exactly. There's no haters here like this guy from Wright College.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out.
No, ICE agents got to get shot. I mean, that's nothing but love. Well, and of course, we had a CPS teacher posterized, identified after she made a big spectacle of herself, this morbidly obese harridan who apparently works at Nathan Hale Elementary in the city, in response to a pro-Trump, pro-Charlie Kirk flag that somebody was driving with and sort of had on the side of their vehicle. She was walking along and making a gesture with, her hand to her neck and then pulling her hand away from her neck like an explosion, mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Her name is Lucy Martinez. She's been identified. That's the reporting on that. Again, just another expression of love. Celebration, love for one's fellow man. It's really quite beautiful. And I got some great news for you, too. The woman primarily responsible for installing BLM Brandon on the 5th floor at City Hall has a new gig. Hey, listen up, suburbanites and ex-urbanites and downstaters. You're going to love this. Stacey Davis Gates, she's the head of Chicago Teachers Union. And we can wring our hands about Stacey Davis Gates when she's just in Chicago presiding over one of the worst government school systems in the Western Hemisphere, basically a quasi-criminal organization that deprives children of even the opportunity to learn and grow up to live independent lives. Now she's been elected the president of the Illinois Federation of Teachers. Yes. Congratulations. Boy, what does that say about the educators statewide? You can't localize this to Chicago anymore. All 125,000 Illinois teachers and school employees are now under the leadership of Stacey Davis Gates. Isn't that great? So that, the teachers union in Chicago and the teachers unions around the state, those different, gaggles of educators are all fully aligned, so she can speak with one voice when she goes to Springfield or when she goes on to speak at the City Club or on TV, like when she spoke at the City Club and she explained the philosophy of those she represents because she's a duly elected representative. What do you think, suburban teachers, ex-urban teachers, employees, school board members, parents? Isn't this great? The full alignment. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Your school districts are going to be, and their employees, all falling in line behind Stacey Davis Gates, somebody who says things like this recently when she spoke at City Club.
The attack on the idea of community is exactly the point. Take, for instance, all of the right-wing outrage over my sister, bilingual music teacher and unionist Kat Zamarin. One of the speakers at our November rally, she quotes brilliantly and perfectly American philosopher James Baldwin. Baldwin says, "The children are always ours." Always. Always. Every single one of them, all over the globe. And what comes next is CT Youth and your children are its children. Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's right.
We do.
Yep.
CTU thinks all children belong to it, and there's socialist conspiracy ideology. Well, I don't know about all that, but we like children. We educate them, we nurture them, we protect them, we support them, we negotiate for them, we create space for them. We even have them in our homes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. Wonderful.
But for real, you guys, in community, we belong to each other.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that we don't do for them is teach them how to read and do math. Or keep them safe at school from violence on the streets or predators in the school. Some of those people that Stacey Davis Gates references who like kids like them a little too much, I've heard. I mean, I read about it in the Chicago Tribune, that big expose. And other cases that nobody wants to talk about. Predatory behavior against kids and CPS. Yeah. They sure are, kids. Yeah. How about it? We're going to see a big uprising of teachers around the state against Stacey Davis. Obviously not. They elected her. Didn't they? You want to tell me again about K through 12 government education in this state? You know, oh, by the way, just as a reminder, these are Illinois State Board of Education results. I mean, data from the Illinois State Board of Education. Just remember this story. Do you remember this one? Not a single student tested was proficient in math in 80 Illinois schools. Not a single one. Mainly high schools, mainly in Chicago, but some downstate. Places like Cahokia and Cairo. Some in Central Illinois. Couple in Kankakee. Not a single kid. And we're talking about schools like, for example, Longwood campus, the CICS Longwood campus school. There's 1,180 kids at that school. Zero students tested proficient in math in 2024. And the spend in these schools per pupil, well, let's go to the one I just mentioned, Longwood campus. $21,000 per kid, more than they spend at Bennett, where I went. And it goes up from there. Many other middle and high schools that spend upwards of 40. Bronzeville. Let's see. Bronzeville Scholastic High School, 105 students, $42,000 per pupil, zero proficient in math. And there was another 24 schools that had zero students proficient in reading. And here's the best part. On average, these 80 schools that have zero students proficient in math, 24 schools that have zero students proficient in reading, they have graduation rates at 70% on average. How's that? Oh, these illiterates then grow up to go out to the No Kings rally and listen to idiots, well, like Stacey Davis Gates or her fellow traveler, Brandon Johnson. Stacey Davis Gates.
We are asking you to give us an opportunity to tell our story. It will cost $50 billion and 3 cents. Where's the Civic Federation Committee? Where y'all at? Where y'all at?
This is funny. This is fun.
Yes,
fun.
it will.
Yeah. It's like a
so
Persisha conservative. Yeah.
That's audacity.
$50 billion and 3 cents. So what?
And so what?
And so what? Did you hear her? What's the response going to be? In all of those leafy suburbs with those self-styled, highly educated residents, so proud of their schools, their government schools in Naperville and Downers Grove and Glen Ellen and Hinsdale, North Shore. I can't wait to align with Stacey Davis Gates, huh? When do the invitations go out for her to come up and address the parents? You interested? Or you just going to trust her good judgment? Sure, I could understand that. Stacey Davis Gates on school choice, for anybody who's a school choice proponent.
You are making a choice because perhaps, I assume you can afford to do that a lot of Chicago parents don't because they can't afford it. And proponents of school choice say the state should have a role in helping those families who can't afford it make the same choice that you did for your family.
So a couple of things, Abby. It is nuanced in Chicago. Like I've said, we have been destabilized and defunded in our black communities. When people speak of choice, they are speaking of two different things that are of comparative nature. What we are faced with in Chicago is an absence of a choice, is an absence of resources. And furthermore, school choice in this country has been anchored to a very racist and angry right wing. I can show you a whole host of emails that have come to me and my family detailing that level of violence and racism. So if the choice movement does want to move away from their angry and violent rhetoric, I might add, then they would do themselves a favor and reject the rhetoric of the right that tells us that history is not important. I understand the impact of segregation in Chicago, the impact of destabilization in Chicago, and I face that along with over 90% of my neighbors.
That was her answer to spin out of her hypocrisy that she sends her kids to her son to a private school because she can, but she doesn't want other families who don't have who are not making a few $100,000 running a government union. They shouldn't have the same choice. You should discriminate against people based on your household income and your address. That's what she says. That's the substantive translation of her position. They don't have choice in Chicago. Right, I know. You're right. Families don't have choice because you oppose it. You don't have choice anywhere in Illinois because you spearheaded the effort to repeal the opportunity scholarships. Really, it's all racism. It's all this and that. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, Hope Academy, for example. That's all predicated on racism. These schools that do provide choice and raise their own money to provide scholarships for kids in the neighborhood, majority minority schools, St. Benedict the African in Inglewood. These are all these Catholic schools and government schools. Catholic schools, your buddy Supich. Big racist, is he? Is that why the Catholics have the schools in Chicago? Because they're racist? All this, I'm being victimized. We don't want to talk about the history of race and political power in the city or the state. And these are the race hustlers that preside over the city and now the state. Isn't this great news? Should be a real boon to the quality of K through 12 and even higher ed too. IFT, higher ed, real boon to government education at every level in Illinois, don't you think? Stacey Davis Gates, the intellectual leader for how a pre-K through post-secondary government school system should operate. Yeah. And I can't wait to hear from teachers say not everybody supports the union. Not everybody agrees with Stacey Davis Gates. Yeah? And? So? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to say anything about it? Andy in Dallas, Texas, here in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, well, Stacey Davis Gates likes to pretend like she doesn't understand data, but she certainly does. The data showing the positive results from school choice. But on the topic of the protest over the weekend, I'm a member of the Union League Club. I've been there for 30 years. And so I go in there on Saturday, and I just saw a bunch of these dirty old hippies walking around. And I'm going into the club, and there's a gaggle of them outside that are begging to can we just pop in to use the bathroom? And they don't understand that this is a private club and that, no, you can't just overwhelm it. I just wonder if they go back up to Winnetka and Wilmette and some stranger comes up to their house wanting to use their bathroom. Are they going to let them in? Are they going to be, yeah, come on in? You know, it was just hilarious. I mean,
yeah, sure. Just knock on the door and say, hey, no kings. I need to use the John. Right. Solidarity, sister. They did have a little jamboree going, I saw, outside in and around Grand Park. Yeah, these are a bunch of old honky 60s refugees. A couple of male impersonators. Yeah. Celebratory mood. Spreading the love. Jim in Crown Point.
Yeah, my son homeschools both his daughters, $4,000 each a year. They go to school 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, and they get tested, and they are like 2 grades ahead of what they consider normal. There's organizations now. It's growing. There's like 100 in his organization. They go on field trips. They do other things.
100%.
Taught.
100%. Thanks for the call, Jim. Christian Home Educators Coalition in here. Illinois is a big homeschooling state for all kinds of obvious reasons. Not everybody can make that play. But, yeah, I mean, hat tip to those who do, of course. What to do about all the money that we allocate to make sure that everybody has access to the opportunity to earn a quality education and get about their lives and whatever path they choose. Shoulder shrug. And again, it's not just Chicago. They're Chicagoizing the state. I mean, if you like the model there, we should scale it. And that seems to be the general opinion. Okay. Fine by me. I'm good. How about your kids? How about your community? Where the schools are the centerpiece, right? Strong schools provide the foundation for strong communities and all that. What do you think Stacey Davis Gates' mind's eye is going to be in terms of distribution of state tax dollars to Chicago and other schools in lower income neighborhoods or communities vis-a-vis those Tony suburbs? If you think property taxes are high now and your homes are being liquidated in the suburbs now to pay for your government schools, and they are, just wait. But it's all good. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Sign up to become an AM 560 Advantage member at 560theanswer.com. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
The world's most popular museum is still closed in Paris. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The day after a heist at the Louvre while it was open with visitors inside.
It looked like something right out of a movie.
Fox's Greg Palcott says it was a gang of thieves that robbed the Louvre in just 7 minutes.
They used some sort of a cherry picker device to scale their way up the backside of the museum, then used a buzzsaw to get through the window on the museum's second floor, scooped up the goods, and got away on high-speed scooters.
One of those has been recovered as police keep looking for the thieves.
Making off with hundreds of millions of dollars of loot, specifically the French crown jewels, tiaras, necklaces, bracelets. Officials actually call them priceless.
It's peaceful again in Gaza after a flare-up in deadly fighting.
Over the weekend, Hamas violated the ceasefire, killing 2 Israeli soldiers. The IDF says that Hamas militants popped out of a tunnel and fired RPGs at an excavator that was operating near the city of Rafah. In another incident nearby, Israeli soldiers were wounded by Hamas sniper fire. The event prompted Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip that killed dozens of Palestinians.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. President Trump told reporters on Air Force One last night the ceasefire still holds. He also warned another country of new U.S. tariffs on its imports as punishment, Colombia.
They make drugs. They refine drugs. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They have no fight against drugs. And I'm stopping all payments to Colombia.
A potential security threat's been found and then dismantled in Florida. A hunting stand near Palm Beach Airport with a full view of the tarmac and a clear sight of President Trump when he flies in and out of there visiting his Mar-a-Lago home. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino just told Fox.
All of the forensic tools we have, from digital tools to biometric tools, they are all going to be applied to try to find out who put this up there and why.
Amazon's web service is being restored after an overnight outage that disrupted a lot of popular sites and apps. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 45 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Mostly sunny skies here in the Chicagoland area. High today of 66. 11 people were arrested by federal ICE agents during an operation at parking lots near O'Hare International Airport. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that Border Patrol arrested undocumented immigrants. Meanwhile, Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino posted on X that the agency had, quote, arrested dozens of illegal alien rideshare operators taking jobs from American citizens. A legislator says a federal program could provide over $100 million in scholarships for children here in Illinois, but the state must opt in to benefit. Katrina Barker has the story.
In 2025, Congress passed a key Republican bill that included creating a federal tax credit for donations to scholarship granting organizations. Illinois House Minority Leader Tony McCombie introduced House Bill 4099 to opt the state in, with strong support from State Representative Adam Niemerg.
Anybody that's pushing school choice, whether they're late to the game or not, I'm okay with it.
Illinois students continue to lag in national testing, with 62% of fourth graders below proficient in math and 70% below proficient in reading, according to the 2024 NAAP results. Niemerg says states with school choice consistently see better results.
You have competition in that environment, which just breeds excellence.
News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Amazon says most of its AWS operations are working now. Amazon Web Services, its cloud computing unit, experienced a major outage this morning that took down numerous apps, from Amazon Alexa and Venmo to McDonald's. Tech website The Verge says the cause of the outage has not been confirmed. Boeing shares are up more than 1.5%. The FAA will allow Boeing to increase production of its 737 MAX jets from 38 to 42. The government's looking into whether self-driving taxis are okay to operate around school buses. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says there are reports the robo-taxis were behaving unsafely near school buses that were stopped. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola, invested in you.
Larry Elder talks directly to Democrats.
Even if you hate this man's guts, isn't it better after they deployed troops in D.C., where there was a dramatic decline in homicide, a dramatic decline in robberies? Don't you like the idea that there might be a few more people alive who otherwise would be dead but for what Trump did?
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
Our veterans are our heroes. They answered the call to defend our freedom, putting their lives on the line for our nation. But today, thousands of these brave men and women are facing something no hero should ever face: food insecurity. That's where Farm to Veteran comes in. Through the Fulcrum Farm Foundation, this remarkable organization delivers farm-fresh, nutritious food directly to veterans in need through veteran services and organizations. From greenhouse-grown produce to eggs, they're ensuring our heroes have access to the high-quality food they deserve. But Farm to Veteran can't do it alone. They need our help. Your financial contribution directly supports their mission to feed more veterans across their growing network of partner farms nationwide. And there's another way you can make a difference. Join them at their upcoming community events. Visit farm2veteran.com today. That's farm, the number 2, veteran.com, farm2veteran.com, to donate or learn about events near you, because those who served our country shouldn't have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. Let's stand with those who stood for us. And to do so, support farm2veteran.com. That's farm, the number 2, veteran.com.
According to a 2022 FBI statistic, less than 0.01% of all altercations require a lethal response. Now, think about that. Now, we all have a safety plan. If you don't, you need one that includes firearms. That's only necessary less than 1% of the time. So what is your new plan for 99.99% of the time? Well, you can start with the Byrna Launcher, BYRNA. It's the less lethal launcher that can de-escalate any situation for 99% of any altercations. Now, the new Byrna Compact Launcher is the smallest, less lethal option to date. It's concealable anywhere. It fires powerful kinetic rounds, tear gas, pepper spray. It also can stop an attacker for up to 40 minutes. No background checks, legal in all 50 states. It ships straight to your door. Byrna, because your first line of defense should always be less lethal. Just go to BYRNA.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family to be safe. That's BYRNA.com.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Somebody broke down on Lakeshore Drive southbound just after Irving Park Road, and the left lane is blocked, and then just stop and go on the northbound side as you approach Hollywood Avenue. On the south side, back of the yards on 47th Street at Ashland Avenue, there is a collision. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 16, getting a little bit slow on the outbound side, 24 minutes. And the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange will cost you an extra 20 minutes both ways. Inbound is 39 minutes, outbound is 43. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the old post office is 47, outbound is 31. Inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 37 minutes, outbound is 23. The inbound Dan Ryan slows down from 95th Street to the Byrne Interchange, 28 minutes, still looking good on the outbound side at 11. You are stop and go on the Reagan Memorial. Eastbound as you approach the Tri-State, traffic is a service of Goldilocks. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Expect a bit of evening rain tonight, then clearing up and remaining breezy with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance. Arrogance, ignorance, and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
Yeah, the LA Dodgers are in the World Series. Don't you know? You remember the LA Dodgers. They're big proponents of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Oh, did you forget that? We forget so fast. I know they have the greatest baseball player probably in Major League history. It's interesting just talking about a Tony for a minute. I had the occasion to meet Rick Helling. Baseball fans will remember him. At Olympia Fields, my buddy played golf with him. He was in town a couple weeks back for the Cubs-Brewers game. And, Helling, who had a good career, I think he led the league in wins and led the AL in wins in 98 for the Rangers, and he won 2 rings for the Marlins. Anyway, we were just talking, really nice guy, and he was talking baseball for a while, and he said, who do you think the greatest baseball player in Major League history is? And I thought for a second, I said Willie Mays. He said, it's a good answer, but it's Shohei Ohtani. And it really is. I mean, I know it's a short time period as compared to, say, Mays' career, but I mean, if there was any question about that after his 3-homer, 6 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts game that sent Milwaukee on its way, I think that's been put to rest. It was just interesting and it's a fun conversation, and it's something you take notice of, just because for I think, again, persuasively the greatest baseball player in Major League history playing in our time. It's it's a treat to be able to live and see it, like it was to see Michael Jordan play basketball. But unfortunately, his organization, that would be the Dodgers, less of a treat. Yeah, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, that fiasco. Good judgment there in the front office. I mean, it is L.A., so you have to, I guess, discount the prospect of common sense or decency being represented in the front office. And apparently, lessons not learned. Leah, Don't Call Me Billy Thomas, was honored in L.A. last week, Thursday night. He looked resplendent in a purple dress and stilettos. 6'3", 6'6" in stilettos. He was there, Billy Thomas, they call him Leah, to accept the Voice of Inspiration Award at the 2025 Violet Visionary Awards. Organized by a nonprofit, one of those nonprofits without a political agenda. Sure. Rainbow Labs was the sponsor, or the organizing nonprofit, sponsored in part by the LA Dodgers. Leah, Billy, don't call me Leah. Incredible shout out to Rainbow Labs for bringing me here and everybody and putting this all together. Makes me very emotional because I remember all too well not long ago being 18 and just realizing that I'm trans. It was right after I figured out that I wasn't going to be able to compete in men's swimming, and then I realized I was trans. Billy Thomas, now 26. Feeling so excited at the prospect of being able to be who I am, but feeling so terrified to take those steps because I didn't know any other trans people. I barely knew what it meant to be trans. Interesting. But I knew that my path to success in swimming at the collegiate level would be a lot clearer. He didn't say that. I'm suggesting that possible. Dan Dakich, he played for Bobby. He played basketball for Bobby Knights. I don't think he's going to be too hep to this. You know him. He's a regular broadcaster. Here's what he had to say about it.
I love trans people. Fine. They want to play. Great. You know, when Leah Thomas, who's being honored tonight, went and appealed, World Aquatics said you can't play in the Olympics. They banned people who have been through male puberty, but they opened up an open division. Great. You want to do that. That's fine. If you want to honor Leah Thomas because Leah Thomas is inspirational to the LGBT, great. Awesome. But don't involve kids ever. Never, ever, ever, and I will never, for the life of me, I will never understand how anybody with any kind of brain can understand. Look, kids want to be firemen today. They want to be truck drivers tomorrow, shortstop of the Dodgers. It changes daily, but yet when they say, hey, look, I want to be a girl. Okay, let's do it. If I told my mother, hey, look, I think I'm a girl, she'd have said, no, you're not. Go play. When you involve kids, the Dodgers should be ashamed of themselves. Whoever made the decision to put this money into this should be fired immediately. This is embarrassing. This is wrong. And quite frankly, this is evil. When you involve kids, it becomes absolutely evil. Dodgers should be ashamed of themselves for having anything to do with this event whatsoever.
I'm not sure the Dodgers have the capacity for shame, given yet another instance of following the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence from a couple years back. Yeah, they quietly de-escalated that situation because they were taking on too much water. But they are who they are. 312-642-5600 turnkey.pro answer line. I like the fact that Dan Dakich. No, I mean, he's had a successful broadcasting career. I'm not so sure how worried he is, but it's nice to hear somebody in sports broadcasting, given how left-dominated it still is, with maybe the exception of the UFC. Not all the players per se, but the leadership of the leagues and the front offices. But it's nice to hear somebody like Dan Dakich say this is evil, straight up, in terms of the transing kids. And, maybe that has something to do with the data we reported last week that suggests that the social contagion is not as powerful as it once was. You're starting to see the trans identification among Gen Z dropped significantly. We've seen significant attrition over the last 2 years. It's sort of like mask wearing during COVID. It got less and less fashionable. There was less and less social capital to be gained by virtue signaling. And so it was time to move on to, the next virtue signaling opportunity for many. Text from 602, Dodgers bought themselves an all-star team for $400 million. Who cares? Well, I don't follow baseball like I used to. I don't follow most sports like I used to. I follow enough to know I pay attention enough to know what's going on, generally speaking. But, I used to be one of those sports dorks who I had fantasy golf league, fantasy baseball league. I still follow college basketball, but I did follow the NBA too. That's long since gone. It's basically down to golf. I'm not a huge fan of UFC. It's basically down to golf and college basketball for me. Not that, the colleges and the NIL era, even that's a little bit on the wane for me, but at least it's still the real game of basketball, unlike the NBA. But I digress. Tim and Zion, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Great show. It doesn't surprise me. We're talking Los Angeles. We're talking West Coast. We're talking a state that passes a law to where anybody can come pick your kid up from school. They don't even have to be related. It's just madness. It's just madness and infuriation.
Yeah, it is madness. Thanks for the call, Tim. And worse than that, this is a state that goes after parents if they don't fall in line with their kid, quote unquote, transing, and school districts that are hiding what's going on with their children in school versus what happens when they're at home. So you're definitely right, but that doesn't mean that the Dodgers, and I know there are a lot of players on the Dodgers that probably weren't in attendance to celebrate Billy Thomas's Visionary Award. So it doesn't mean you have to go along with the political culture in LA or Los Angeles, but they do. They did. They're still doing it. On a happier note, I did want to get to this. This came up last week, so a lot of you probably heard about it, but it bears honoring wherever it can be honored. This is not politics. This is just sports. 80-year-old Natalie Grabeau of Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, finished the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. The first female in the 80 to 84 category to complete the race. The race took place in Kona. She finished in 16 hours, 45 minutes, 26 seconds, which is about, I think, half the time it took Oprah to walk the marathon back in the day. The Ironman, 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike race, and 26.2 mile run. 140 miles of swimming and biking and running, 80 years old. Wow. That's pretty good. Now she can take on this challenge, see what she's really made of. The International Taco Bell 50K Ultramarathon. You must run 50 kilometers, that's 31 miles, over 11 hours while continuously eating Taco Bell. The route around the city, and this is in Denver, in case you want to schedule this. The route around the city passes 10 Taco Bells, and the runners have to stop at least 9 out of the 10 and order a food item. Drinks do not count. It includes 1 Chalupa Supreme or 1 Crunch Wrap Supreme by the 4th stop, and 1 Burrito Supreme or 1 Nachos Bel Grande by the 8th stop. There's also a strict no puking rule. I don't know how that could be enforced. But if a runner pukes, they're out. Also, there is no use of stomach medicines. You cannot use, Pepto-Bismol, Pepcid, Alka-Seltzer, Mylanta on the run. You want to talk, the Ironman is one thing. 31 miles eating Taco Bell with no digestive assistance. And I don't know if you get a bathroom break either. Now that's something. Challenge Natalie Grabeau or anybody to do that. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, the revival of an ancient conflict recorded in the Bible.
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. So what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel? The Bible speaks about this whole war as a dragon representing the enemy attacking a woman representing Israel.
Dinesh D'Souza's new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, offers new understanding of October 7th, Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be tied to this place?
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
The dragon will not prevail.
The Dragon's Prophecy, based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller. Watch it now or buy the DVD at salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com.
Text from 602, 31 miles in that Taco Bell race. How they come at that? 50 kilometers, and that's what it translates to. Ohtani. Yeah, I said Ohtani. Talking about the greatest player in Major League Baseball history. I said Ohtani. Yeah, I mean, don't text in phonetical nonsense, honestly. Okay. Business owners, is your company's cybersecurity ready to handle today's cyber attacks? They're getting more and more sophisticated every year. Some companies never recovered due to the fallout. In 2021, a ransomware group called DarkSide gained access to Colonial Pipeline through a compromised password. The impact, $4.4 million paid in ransom. In 2017, Equifax had a massive breach which ended up costing more than $700 million in settlements. Large companies from Target and Yahoo to small businesses, including medical practices, have suffered major losses due to cyber attacks. Many had to close their doors. Access One is here to protect your business 24/7 year after year. Access One, they're a proud sponsor of Chicago's Morning Answer. These are the guys you can count on. Cybersecurity isn't just about IT, it's about protecting your survival and customer trust. If you're concerned about your cybersecurity, get a free baseline cybersecurity assessment from Access One by calling 1-800-804-8333 or fill out the contact form at accessoneInc.com. They're here in Chicago, and again, that number is 1-800-804-8333 to schedule your free baseline cybersecurity assessment, or you can visit them online again at Access One, the number spelled out, O-N-E, accessoneInc.com.
Are you tired of tech headaches slowing your business down? Unique Computing Solutions has been the go-to IT team for businesses in Illinois and Northwest Indiana for nearly 30 years. Your systems should be running smoothly, your data secured, and your communications streamlined. Visit our website today at uniquecomputingsolutions.com. That's uniquecomputingsolutions.com. Your IT challenges solved.
Honey, why does it take you so long to get ready?
Because I've got one tiny sink. I'm trying to balance makeup on the back of the toilet, and the mirror's always fogged up.
Sounds like a circus act.
Exactly. And I perform every morning.
At Forever Remodeling, we create bathrooms that fit your life, not the other way around. From extra storage to spa-like showers and timeless finishes, we make your mornings easier. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Slippers, only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now, only $39.98. That's a $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews in Family Legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Every time I turn around, my friends at Pure Talk give me one more reason to feel good about switching. This month, for instance, they're supporting Canines for Warriors, a terrific organization that trains rescue dogs and then pairs them up with combat veterans struggling with PTSD. The result? They're saving lives on both ends of the leash. This is why I switched to Pure Talk. I like being in business with an American wireless company who shares my values. Yeah, I appreciate unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, and I bet you will too. But I think you'll really appreciate doing business with a company who gives back to the men and women who volunteered to defend our country. Just dial pound 250, say micro. With Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team, you can switch in as little as 10 minutes. Again, dial pound 250, say micro, to switch to an American wireless company who actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to His Eminence, law professor Richard Epstein, about the racial gerrymandering case. Oral arguments were heard last week at the Supreme Court, as we discussed, as well as what Professor Epstein thinks will be the ultimate outcome in these court battles between the Trump administration and governors like Pritzker and Newsom over ICE activity, National Guard, and the like. That's all at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 47 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The debate over Illinois' voter rolls is intensifying after the United States Department of Justice has requested full voter data to enforce federal law. Governor J.B. Pritzker is raising the alarm, and conservatives are calling his response paranoid. In a video on social media, Pritzker claimed that the DOJ's request signals something more sinister.
They're calling for all these databases so that they can look through them, and yet they won't tell you when they're going to come up with any conclusion about whatever it is they're looking for.
And the Food and Safety Inspection Service has recalled more than 90,000 breakfast burritos. Officials say the Los Cabos, El Maspino, and Miramar breakfast burritos tested positive for listeria. For a complete list of the affected burritos, head to fsis.usda.gov/recalls. News is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at almostfreeteeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, happening on Saturday, November 8th at Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. This year, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, along with Dan Proft, Sean Thompson, John Anthony, and many more. This event will sell out fast, so get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Quick Delivery Service Incorporated and by Virago.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TRUPowerGenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Get 2 mattresses for the price of 1.
Whoa, what are you doing?
We don't do sales at Penny Mustard.
I know.
So how can we offer 2 mattresses for the price of 1?
Because with a flippable, 2-sided foam or coil mattress from Penny Mustard, it's like having 2 mattresses for the price of 1.
You'll give each side more time to breathe.
And your mattress will last twice as long.
See? 2 for 1.
2-sided mattresses, available every day at Penny Mustard Furnishings.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Stop and go delays on Lakeshore Drive northbound into Hollywood Avenue, and we're shut down with a crash in Southside back of the yards on Ashland Avenue southbound between 47th Street and 49th Street. It's also stop and go eastbound on the tollway between the Eisenhower and Park Boulevard with a collision taking out the left lane. Now the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the old post office is 45 minutes. Outbound is 25. The inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 31. Outbound is 22. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 30. Outbound is 12. And on the Kennedy, inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 45 minutes. Outbound is 38. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle started Blindster in 2010 to make quality custom-made blinds affordable to everyone. Traditional window covering retailers are expensive. Blindster's prices are low and their blinds are guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 67. Tonight, expect a bit of evening rain, then clearing up with a low of 46. Tomorrow will bring increasing cloudiness, windy conditions, and cooler temperatures with a high of 54. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We talked about the oral arguments in the Louisiana racial gerrymandering case before the High Court last week. But we'll get a constitutional scholar to weigh in to see if my review was on point. Perhaps the most jarring moment in the oral arguments was when Judge KGB, or KBJ if you prefer, Ketanji Brown Jackson, made this comparison, taking, in my view, the soft bigotry of low expectations to a new low.
A kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact,
blacks are disabled. They're tantamount to the disabled in terms of access to the voting system. The present-day manifestations of lack of equal access, she was a little hazy on the details there. If you're going to make an assertion like that, I think you need to make it with a concrete example of just what the hell you're talking about when you discuss access to vote. Where are blacks being denied access to vote or having to face hurdles that other races do not face in order to vote? Are there different early voting periods by race anywhere in the country? I'm unaware of that. Any other guidelines at any state level that suggests that people are being treated differently with respect to their franchise and their opportunities to exercise it based on their race? Yeah, I didn't get any details to support that assertion, which is just a wild statement to make, given no details. For more on this and other legal matters, please be joined by Professor Richard Epstein, the James Parker Hall Distinguished Service Professor and Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to join you. There's something afoot, I'm sure.
So what about the that racial gerrymandering case and to the extent you consume some or all of the oral arguments, where you think that the court is going to go in that case pertaining to the Voting Rights Act?
Well, I mean, I think virtually everybody has the same prediction, which is that the ability to use race as a factor in gerrymandering is going to be either curtailed or eliminated. The problem about doing all this stuff is the Equal Protection Clause gives you only the faintest guide as to what it is that's the nature of the wrong and what it is that's the nature of the remedy. And in fact, there are two issues at play on discretion. One is the weird districts that are created because of race, and the other is the weird districts that are created because of the Rucho's decision, which says that the courts will not supervise the way in which political forces influence the shape of these particular districts. And it turns out that if you have both of those things, it's a nightmare because you can't get anything done. You get rid of one of them. What you do is you now increase the political ability of people to shut out anybody whom they want to do for political grounds. And that's also equally dangerous. But the idea that this is a question of access to voting as opposed to the way in which you manipulate the districts, that's crazy. As it was pointed out years ago in Shelby County, after the Civil Rights Act voting in 1965, black participation in the South in many cases is much higher than is white participation. And so you can't treat that as a kind of an exclusion situation. And as you mentioned, there's no differential laws that are around there which says that black people can't do this. And there's no law that's on the book which was passed with the effect of trying to create some form of discrimination. So I think the basic argument here is going to be, are they going to basically just get rid of the race thing because it's suspect and not the political configuration things? And if they do the first but not the second, remember, in a state like Illinois, if the Democrats are controlled, what they can do is they can make the districts largely Chicago and a little bit suburban and control all of them. If the Republicans are controlled, they'll keep all the Democratic districts in the city, and therefore the Republicans will control the rest of the state. And in a state with 18 electoral votes, you probably could switch 3 or 4, maybe even 5 seats one way or the other. So this is a really dynamic problem. I think that the court has talked itself into the hole when it decided to put its hands off of political redistricting. And I think the people who think that race is really important will say, look, you allow for political redistributing. We'll have a state which may have 25% black population, and it turns out we'll have no black representatives, even if you have 8 or 9 seats.
Yeah, but that was the point that Sotomayor was attempting to make. But of course, reality gives lie to that assertion, which is you have minority representatives in majority white districts, and vice versa, frankly. So I mean that the reality just belies what Sotomayor and KBJ were arguing, because like so many of these race hustling politicians on the left, they are pretending that America in 2025 is 1963 Selma.
It certainly is a problem. I mean, I think what you say is right, but here's the answer is not their answer. I dissociate myself with them. Is that there's going to be a tendency to go in that direction, and so that what happens if you had a map, and this is the challenge, in which every district was 35% black and 65% white, you would probably have, if there were 10 districts, 1 black representative. And that has always been the problem, but this is an inherent problem. It turns out everybody ideally would love to see reapportionment take place, so that the more power that you have in the voting situation, the more representatives you have. But it's just impossible to achieve that, no matter what you do, particularly if you're going to have territorial districts. You can do it if you adopted the kind of system that they have in Israel or so forth, where what you do is you run slates statewide, and then as your percentage of the vote increases, what happens is your percentage of the Knesset or the state legislature or the Congress increases as well. The problem with that is legislators and Congress people, they perform constituent services. And if you just have a disconnected slate with no territorial controls whatsoever, it's going to lead to a world in which nobody knows whom to call in order to fix the local problem. That's why we prefer a local district. My own solution was the one that they had in Chicago many years ago. Do you remember Bernie Epstein?
Bernie Epstein, sure. Ran against Harold Washington, right?
Yeah, that's right. But before that, what we had is three-person districts. And Bernie Epstein could always win in Hyde Park because a third of the people in the city wanted him, or the district wanted him. Well, if you have multi-districts of 3, then you will get greater minority representation. But that system was gotten rid of by the Democrats in large part because they knew that Bernie Epstein could win it. So I like that intermediate solution. There's nothing that precludes it from being used. But as you can see, it would be extremely difficult for one pointy-headed academic to tell everybody in 49 other states, hey, you better do it my way. So I think in effect that we are in a very bad situation. I would reconsider Rucho, which is the decision which says it's a political thicket. It is just crazy to make small adjustments that nobody cares about. This district has 1% more population than that district, and all of a sudden when we started looking at that, we thought, this is just terrible, we can't do it. And then when we have this massive gerrymandering taking place, we just turn a blind eye to it. The briefs that were written in Reshow by Nick Stephanopoulos and his crew told about the cracking and stacking situation and could propose kind of computer-like remedies to deal with it. And Chief Justice Roberts said, I read Koldorf and Green. That was the famous decision by Felix Frankfurter in 1946. And this is a political thicket. Frankfurter said, I don't want to get involved at all. Brennan says we now have districts of equal size. We have equal size and no limits on the shape in which these districts can assume. You're going to get political monstrosity. In Shaw v. Reno, they say, we can take race into account, but not this far. And you think about this as a standard. You can't do this one, but we don't know what the next one's going to look like. If you have a kind of intermediate mushy rule, what you're going to do is get litigation in every state, because virtually every one of them will have intermediate solutions that may or may not meet the balancing test that Justice O'Connor liked in that case. So this is a genuine national crisis. And again, I would stress, Rucho must go. Chief Justice Roberts must put on his thinking cap and say, this is the way I'm going to solve this problem, instead of taking it off and saying, if you guys want to do something corrupt, it's just fine with me.
But I mean, the Supreme Court has sort of promulgated best practices, contiguousness, compactness, respect for municipal boundaries. I mean, so, there is.
But they've never enforced them.
I know. But I mean, but that is out there. right?
Yeah, no, and that's what I wanted to do. There is nothing which says that it has to be done by a committee. These are not laws. I mean, it's the interesting thing. It says the state legislature shall prescribe. And when they say that, it's not like saying there's a statute in which the governor has to veto or something of the sort. They really meant it to be an exclusively legislative function. One of the really difficult things about the Constitution is that it operates in so many other ways, that it just doesn't pass legislation. And when you look at a particular provision, it's something to tell you what the legislator can do, and the legislator can do lots of things that aren't legislation. Various kinds of vetoes and so forth, beginning the prosecution. And you have to be a close textualist to understand that the headings legislative power, judicial power, executive power are basically broad approximations, but the Constitution has to wiggle so many things into various places that you can't fit it all that way. So all of the stuff restricting the ability of states to deal with contracts and so forth, they're all in Article 1. They couldn't figure out where else to put the darn thing. You're drafting a document that's more complex than any that's ever been attempted in the history of the world. You give yourself 6 months to do this kind of thing. You know what? You're going to make some complete hell of it. And they did. And so the large problem that you always have is how do you deal with it? Now, let me just mention one thing to you clearly, which most people don't know. If the original design of the Equal Protection Clause was part of the 14th Amendment, and way back in 1866 when they negotiated all this stuff, the deal was we will let all these things go through on condition that you don't require voting for black. That was the deal. So there is no technical ability to deal with voting under the Equal Protection Clause. That all comes up much later. None of it is originalist because the original 14th Amendment was very heavily racist on all sorts of things in ways that are so astonishing that people today just don't want to believe in it. So, originalism is one of these very mixed stories. Sometimes you see originalism and you don't follow. Nobody follows originalism on the reading of the 14th Amendment because what it does is it's a hallmark for racial exclusion from voting. How do you like that, my friend?
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear that, but I mean, I want to get something else.
We are basically in a world in which the Equal Protection Clause dominates, and that's correct. I don't want to fight that. But what it is it doesn't give you sufficient tools to deal with it unless you have some standard of review on the shape of districts. And when Chief Justice Roberts said, I can't figure this stuff out, he opened the door to mayhem in Texas, in Illinois.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of strikes me almost like it would have to be some sort of like Potter Stewart standard. Like I know it when I see it. I know something that's been gerrymandered politically beyond the standards.
If you look at those stuff, there's a way in which you could basically count how many excess votes there are for somebody. So if you have a district which is 55% Republican and you work the state and now it becomes 80% Republican, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to take 25% of the votes elsewhere where they matter and put them into this state where they don't matter. And then it turns out there are computer-like techniques where you can try to revisit it if you're doing it. But the point is, if you're right when you say, we have contiguous, we have square districts, we have local boundaries. If you had a machine that you could put those things into, you could come out with pretty good answers.
Right.
What happens in Illinois is you have a 2-2 division, you flip a coin, right? And if the Democrats win, there are 3 more Democrat seats. And if the Republican wins, there are 3 more Republican seats. And I think that's much less stable and much less legitimate than having a machine which is not subject to bias running this. In New York, when they started to use the machines a couple of years ago, it produced much more desirable votes than did the state legislature. They had an independent commission, which is the same thing. But if it's an independent commission, it can't be 3 from my side and 2 from your side. It has to be a bunch of technicians, academics, God forbid, computer guys who are doing it. And we just are not there today.
Before we run out of time, I wanted to get your view on these public safety issues that are before the courts and working their way up to the Supreme Court. Trump's use of the National Guard for federal law enforcement, like he's been stymied from deploying the National Guard that's stationed right now out in Will County to the Broadview ICE facility. Does he ultimately win that at the Supreme Court level?
No, he's going to get clobbered.
Why?
And he should get clobbered because what happens is You have a series of predicates as to what we've done, and they talk about invasions and relative inability to do work. Trump says, I'm the sole person in the world who can decide those questions, and my decisions are unreviewable. And what the court below said, that means you can declare anything. Let me give you another illustration. If these are rebellions and insurrections and so forth, January 6th is obviously an insurrection.
Well, he hasn't invoked the Insurrection Act, nor does he need to. Well, why does he need to invoke that?
Because he invokes other statutes which use exactly the same term. Every statute that he's talking about has the word invasion or rebellion or inability to do it. Well, and the way in which the...
But I mean, okay.
Is that the factual predicates have to be established independently. And the court said, we'll give them deference, but we won't give it unreviewable. And deference is not going to be enough to save those decisions, given the careful record that was put together by the district court. And I think the Supreme Court will back them on such questions as, can you have a reduction in force that Congress can't do? The answer to that question is probably yes. But on all of these questions, the tariff question and so forth, the underlying factual predicates that he has, if they are unreviewable by any judicial body or anybody else, the president becomes, as his opponent says, a king. If you look at the Trade Act, nobody says you can invoke into the World Trade Organization by just simply making a declaration. You have to show some factual predicates.
Well, we'll separate the trade issue, the tariff issue for a second. I'm just talking about he activates the National Guard for the express purpose of backing federal law enforcement from enforcing federal laws. They're protecting a federal facility in the Broadview example. How is that beyond his authority?
Because what the statute says, he's only allowed to do that if the local people can't take control of the order. And it turns out even the Trump people said, the state facilities actually coordinated amongst themselves very well. Every kind of minor insurrection, quote unquote, that happened there was effectively controlled by the local police.
Well, except for the stand down order that was issued by Chicago police when ICE agents were under siege.
Well, look, at the moment you start doing that, then the calculus will change. But and this is, of course, one of the problems is that the biggest source of unrest is, in fact, the presence of ICE. Look, I am completely torn on these kinds of issues on the substantive stuff. But my view is you don't do midnight raids, taking people out of their beds for this kind of thing. That's reserved for people who are in acts of rebellion and throwing rocks and stones at it. And I think what's happened to ICE is it's lost too much of its legitimacy, because it's going after illegal aliens who are mom and pop, whose children have been here, who have nothing to do with any of the gangs and so forth. And so what's happened is there's a real crisis of legitimacy in this country. And, God knows I'm not a Joe Biden fan, as you understand. I thought he was disgraceful on this stuff. But I think Trump has gone too far, and I think he will lose all of the cases which say that there's going to be a proof of predicate before he can act.
Well, I mean, there may be a crisis in legitimacy in certain quarters, and with Clinton and Biden appointed judges, but that doesn't mean it's system-wide or
well, I mean,
national.
In this panel, I think that basically, I think there was a Trump judge, I think there was an Obama judge, and the early judge, she was, I don't know, way back then, the leader. Anyhow, the oldest judge in there, he's 86 years old and so forth, so she was appointed at a much earlier time. Look, I mean, this is a very long, phony kind of issue. The single most decisive question before the country today is the so-called unitary executive, which means that anything that's put into the executive branch, the president cannot be subject to review by anybody. And I would say a minority of scholars believe that position. The majority of scholars don't. I'm actually writing a long discourse on that. And let me put it this way. The Constitution was dead silent on the scope of the definition of executive power. You go back and you read John Locke, the most dominant sort. He says we have to have a separate executive because he has to be on duty all the time, and the Parliament can go home, and the Congress can go home. That's it. And so the question that was not answered in the Constitution is who can remove the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury, and the Secretary of War? And the Constitution is dead silent. It has a lot to do about appointment, nothing to do about removal. And that question, by and large, was resolved in favor of the president. But in a case called Myers, Justice Taft, as former president himself, made a huge mistake. And said that there is a local official, Postmaster Flashley, who's appointed with Senate confirmation. He said that he can be dismissed. And he's been appointed by a lower body, and then in fact he'd be protected. You don't want lower people to be governed by the same rule that you have your cabinet officers. These are not people who
Professor Epstein, you're cutting on us in a little bit here, but we're up against the clock anyway. But
I will say thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it as always, Professor Richard Epstein. James Baker. Go ahead.
You should be executive.
Professor Epstein, thank you. James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor, Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago, joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line. Appreciate that. Well, that's interesting, his perspective on those issues dealing with the president's ability to aid and abet the enforcement of federal immigration law. We'll have to pick up that discussion tomorrow, among many others. Still haven't gotten to the Nancy Pelosi piece on J6 from last week either. So we have some unfinished business that we will tackle tomorrow. Thank you to everyone who called in, chimed in on the various discussions we had today, including, of course, most entertainingly, on the No Kings silliness over the weekend. Sound and fury signifying not much, as the Bard might say. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They're back in Israel. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who helped broker the